Hey there. So it says I'm live. So just in case any of you do come and kind of pop in, I'm going to be having a conversation the way the title is. I'm going to be talking to Jordan from Sports Card Analytics. We're going to be chatting a little bit about his channel, a little bit of his collecting, and then, of course, sports card analytics and investing and that kind of thing, because it is kind of the genre he plays into. And there's a lot of folks that talk about that. Now, I also do know there is allegedly a basketball game that's happening in an hour. I've never heard of it. I have no idea what it is, but apparently people watch that kind of thing. But we'll be here just kind of hanging out and having a little bit of a collective chat. If there are any questions or comments or any thoughts from anybody, I've got the little comments section here opened up. So if anything pertains to the conversation, I'll be more than happy to reference it and look at it. So I'm just going to bring Jordan on. I know he was showing up as a little pixely, so we'll work on it. I'm able to hear him pretty well, so we'll have a good conversation and we'll see where it goes from here. Hey, Jordan, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. So I see you brought here and you brought the boss as well, your associate in the background.
Yeah, I told him to just kind of stay out of this one, and I was going to answer all the questions. I'm kind of like the PR guy, and
Okay.
he just works in the background. So yeah, I'm going to be doing most of the talking this time. I know on the show he does a lot of the talking, but he's definitely the mind behind Sports Card Analytics. He does most of the posting on Instagram.
That's fair. That's fair. That's just reasonable. And we're definitely going to talk about the Instagram a little bit, because one of the things that you do that I think is good, and this is something I believe in, is that every platform has its own use and its own thing. Sometimes they complement each other. They play really well off of each other. One of the guys, Stacking Slabs, I think really effectively uses it from one platform to another, but they can also serve different functions in the way they're used. And the decision of what you do with what is always interesting to me, because there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong way to do it. You can actually work these different things off of each other for sure. So let me quickly say hi to one of the folks here. So we got Paul here. Good evening, Paul. How are you? So we're just going to hang here a little bit and chat. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit is I've had the chance to watch most of your videos, and there's a couple of things that I really like about what you're doing, because I do love the analytical slant on it. And also, like I said, I also see a lot of what you're doing on the Instagram. So let me ask you a little bit about the contrast between the two, because there are two different styles and they kind of cater to two different things. In the YouTube channel, and if you feel differently, please let me know, by all means. What I see a lot of times when I look at the YouTube channel is I see you go over like the abstract, the general concept of a lot of the thoughts and the way you're kind of thinking about different things. And then on the Instagram, what I think is interesting is that on the Instagram, a lot of times in some of your posts, and I'll show a couple while we're talking as well, on some of your posts, what will end up happening is that we'll get a little bit of we'll get a chart, not like 100 charts, it's just a couple of charts, and usually it'll be to discuss a certain specific a general theme or a concept. So I'll just show Jordan's Instagram here for everybody so we can look at it. So I'll just use this one as an example. We got a Deshaun Watson here. So you've got the chart, but then also a little bit about just a question. Like, here's a chart, but then, what does this mean? It's a little bit left open-ended. Sometimes there's a little bit more explanation behind it or a little bit more context, but still it brings a question. This card, for a player, you ask, does Deshaun Watson become less talented, or is there a buying opportunity? It's an open-ended question. You're not answering it for everybody, but you're leaving it to them to look at it and go, here's what it is. What do you guys think, basically? And that's a little bit different than the way the YouTube channel goes, where you might discuss a general concept, maybe quarterbacks, player archetypes. You've had a video on that kind of thing. Less specific cards and more kind of general concept. Was that kind of a conscious decision on your part?
Right. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of backstory to both platforms. So with the Instagram came first, and if you scroll to the very bottom, like the very first few posts, I was actually inspired by Chris, the sports card PT. We were talking on my other Instagram about my analytical approach to investing and looking at cards. He was like, "Hey man, you really should start up your own like brand." So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I started doing, the Instagram thing, and you'll see I do like really like in-depth not really in-depth, but in-depth breakdowns of like what I'm seeing. And I figured after a while, like, hey, maybe instead of just putting a picture and putting out my thoughts, not everyone thinks the same. Not everyone thinks analytically. So maybe maybe I'm not conveying it the way to where they can understand the way I'm trying to get it out. So I was like, maybe YouTube's going to be a better platform to where I can get my thoughts out and talk about what I'm doing, what I'm seeing, and maybe that'll be a better way to express myself. So that's where, you know, I would go less in depth, and once I start my YouTube, my Instagram becomes less in depth, unless I really have something that I want to talk about immediately. You know, not something I'm going to talk about on a video and like take the time to edit it and then get it out. It's something I just have on the spot. I'm just like, okay, I just really want to talk about this, and I'll go really in depth on the Instagram. So that's why they're a little different. And also, I think you may know Andy, the sports card investigator. We both talked to each other for maybe since like January, and we started up both of our YouTubes around the same time. And we were both thinking like, hey, there's so many new people. Like in March, like there was a surge of new investors.
Very much so.
And we were thinking like, hey, what's the first thing you look at if you're a new investor? You have no idea anything about investing in cards. What's the platforms you go to? You're going to go to Google. You're going to look up, you know, how do I invest in sports cards? You're going to go to YouTube. And who are the first brands that pop up? And you know, you see sports card investor, you see PSA collector, you see guys like that who are kind of doing their own thing. You know, I'm not going to give my opinion, you know, in-depth opinion on all those guys, but we just felt like maybe there could be someone on YouTube, or a group of people on YouTube who I know you guys are still there, but maybe we can like build up our brands and get out, you know, our thinking of investing in cards, and really, you know, start from the ground up. And that's why his are more like from the bottom, like, hey, this is, you know, how you like look at, you know, this is how you grade cards or stuff like that. And mine's more of, I try to speak to the new investor while also teaching something to someone who may have been in it for 4 or 5 years or 20 years, where they can still learn something too. So that's why, you know, it's a little bit different from the Instagram, but I try to keep them the same. I know with the Instagram, I go more into the analytics, and on the YouTube channel, I'm not talking about numbers as much. I will be in the future. I do plan on using Card Ladder a lot more, and going into charts and breaking things down once my audience becomes more accustomed to my way of thinking.
No, that's fair. And nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to get a little bit of a sense for it, because that was a conversation I had with a hobbyist friend of mine who has seen some of your videos as well. And that was kind of his critique. And we actually were chatting a couple of minutes before we got going on here about critique. And there's critique that's helpful, and then the constructive criticism, and then there's just taking shots. But it was more of a constructive thing. So real quick, I just want to say, hey, so you must be referring to this guy here?
Yeah. Andy, a sports card investigator. Yeah.
Well, I know. It's like, hey, Andy, how are you doing? But no, and I actually shouted out Andy in one of my videos. We did have a little bit of a quick Instagram conversation. I like what he's doing. And it's the same thing. You guys are kind of getting going, because I think you've been going for about 3 or 4 months, I think. Is that about right on YouTube, on the YouTube side of it?
Yeah, about 3 months.
Yeah. So right now it's
he's
early
about
days.
10 videos in. I'm about 15, 3 months.
Yeah. And so it's still early days.
Yeah,
so
it's not something where we're really stressing. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're not stressing about subscriber counts or anything like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think subscriber counts are nice and all. They're a good vanity metric, but I don't think they matter that much. I don't think it's that relevant. Where it gets interesting, and the thing is, like right now, it is early days, and to your point, the channel is going to keep evolving as you kind of adjust and find the audience, find you, they get used to your style, and they kind of work with it. And I did the same thing with my video. I take at it from a different perspective. I've been collecting for 30 years. So it means a lot of the folks that have been in there, like who came back a little while ago, it's like, I enjoy watching their perspective because it's different. For me, it's like, I don't see the change always as dramatically, because to me, it's a gradual change, because I just saw it year by year as it developed. But then I look at it from later on, I'm like, oh, actually, it's been a really big change from where we started to where we are now. So I saw it in a more gradual way. But then from the YouTube side of it, I've been doing that for about 2 years. So that first doing box breaks and that kind of thing, and then going into like, you know what? I just want to talk about what I want to talk about. I have enough experience that I can at least discuss certain things, and then I'll let the audience figure it out as we go along. And that's kind of the approach that I wanted to take. But the critique that was brought up is that, and this was his words. He volunteered this himself. That's why I thought it was interesting, and I thought I'd bring it up with you. Is that he said, I like what he's doing, but I feel like he's starting down this path on the video, starting to explain the thing, and then just holds back just as it's about to get interesting, because then that's where it would involve a little bit of that deeper analysis in a specific card or something, as an example. And so it's good to know that you're thinking about evolving it in that way, because I think that would take it to another level where, like, you're explaining the concept, but then let me show you an example. This isn't the only example, but this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. This is what I'm seeing, similar to the way you're doing on the Instagram. Because on the Instagram, I'm seeing an example. You're leaving it open-ended for the viewer to figure out for themselves, but you're saying, like, look, here's an example of a real card that's seeing something. Look at this and try to interpret it, and then you'll get something out of that.
Right. I just don't want to be that guy that's like giving out picks. That was like my number one thing from my very first video. Same thing with Andy. Like, we don't want to be those guys that just like try to give out picks. Like, here, this is what I'm buying. This is what I'm buying. And we don't want to, I know eventually, like, we'll have some pool and people will, you know, see what we're buying, or we may talk about something and they'll go and it'll influence, you know, even if it influences 50 people and they buy 10 cards, you know, that's 500 cards off the market. So we understand that. We just, I don't want to be that guy who like puts out Deshaun Watson, you know, graph showing it go down. And I'm just kind of showing people like, hey, this may be a good buying opportunity, but it's up to you. Like, I want you to think about it. I'm not going to tell you it's a good buy.
I think I think that's fine. And I think I understand the trepidation and the concern about that. And I've heard a similar sentiment from a lot of other folks. I think that maybe the teachable idea is, instead of saying this is a buying opportunity or not, which obviously you don't want to do, which just makes sense. I get it. The thought process is like, look, this is what I'm looking at when I see this. This is what I'm trying to figure out for myself. I'm trying to figure out if this is a good opportunity or not. These are the criteria that I'm using to try to figure out if it makes sense. And if the answer is no, then I move on to the next card. But I use the same analytical process. The process then teaches them how to fish. You're not going to give them the fish. Your job is to teach them how to fish, and then they can figure it out for themselves. And an example still helps, because you can be like, look, there is a rational reason why I think ABC. I'll give you the pluses and minuses. Oh, which one do I think it's a buy or not? I'm not going to tell you. My job isn't to tell you whether it's a yes or no, but I'll give you the pluses and minuses and go, this is my thought process to develop this list. Now figure it out. But at least I'm giving you the recipe.
Right. That's something I decided, like, when I started everything with the Instagram and the YouTube. I was like, I'm not gonna show you what I'm looking at. Like, any post that I make, it's like the type of stuff that I look at, but I'm not buying that card. It's up to you. Like, I'm just showing you the graph. I'm showing you the types of things I look at. And
the market's being manipulated right now as we speak.
Right. Like, I'm showing people, like, hey, buy the dips. And I talked about Tyler Hero. Like, don't buy at the peaks. I'm like, there was a post, you know, that day from a really high count of followers Instagram account. He was saying, buy Tyler Hero right now. And I looked at his chart and thought, there's no way. Like, if you buy Tyler Hero right now, you're just going to lose money. And that's not good for the hobby. For all the new people coming in, if they're just chasing after the hype, they're going to be out of the hobby, which means money's going to be out of the hobby, which means it's not, these prices aren't going to be sustainable. And, you know, that's my goal, is to keep these people in, educate them, and keep the hobby sustainable. Maybe not to where it was, you know, few months ago, to where, you know, everything was spiking off scrimmages. That's not good. That's not smart. I did make a video about how I thought the market was getting smarter, but then, you know, I realized they were just going.
I was about to ask you, has the market gotten smarter, Jordan?
Right. No.
I questioned that on your Instagram. I said, no, buddy.
Right. Yeah.
I've watched it enough times. It's not that smart. No, I'm afraid not.
Right. It was a hopeful thought. I was trying to be positive. Like, hey, maybe, you know, they see high pop counts, base cards are going down, but then you look at football charts and they were just building up their own hype in their mind for skill position players, and it got bad. So it's all about educating, and I want to keep these people in the market. I want to keep, you know, high volume in the market, and not those old guys. I've seen some collectors who are like, hey, yeah, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. You can't even invest in cards. It's just cardboard. It's stupid. Yeah, like it's yeah. So it's we don't want those people talking to these new people, just scaring them out. Like, hey, this is my, get off my lawn and stuff like that. Like, we want to encourage them, have fun. Like, we have fun with it. We want to show them how to have fun with it too. So that's my goal.
For sure. Paul has a good comment here. I like this one. The NBA market seems like a cat chasing a laser pointer. Not wrong. It's not a bad analogy. It's not bad. It's not bad. That's not bad, Paul. I completely, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I think you're bringing the right energy to it. That's kind of the reason I want to. It's ironic that Andy's here. I laugh because I believe, I could be wrong. I think he did his thing where he wanted to have a challenge for some of those influencers to come on and I think get verified. I think that's the way he phrases it. Something like that.
Yeah. He talks to me about it all the time, and I was like, hey, I'll go on. He's like, you'll pass. I'm just like, okay. But he wanted to have like catered questions to these people. He was really hoping they'd come on so he could just, kind of basically make them look stupid. But of course, no one's going to take that challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a lose for them.
I like to do it. It was fun. The irony here about this is that I do a similar. You saw we were chatting before for a couple of minutes before we came on. Is that you saw my thing with Chris, and I've had different feedback on it. Mostly very good. Most people actually really enjoyed that thing. And like I said, and here's the thing. I'll quickly make like a little mini announcement. I'm gonna have Chris back on the channel next Thursday. I'm going to have him on and we're going to have another discussion. So clearly he was so offended by the first visit that he decided he was willing to come back. So the point is, before we even started on it, and I mentioned this to Jordan, I led with, hey, it's going to sound like I'm grilling you. It's going to sound like I'm bringing the heat lamp on this, but it's coming from a good place. I'm actually trying to help you. There is constructive criticism and then there's destructive. And I made a lot of suggestions, and many of them have appeared in various forms on the platform. So to a certain degree, hopefully some of it's been helpful and they've been able to get some value out of it, because I was looking at it from their perspective. I go, wait, what you guys are trying to do, I would like to help you in some way. In the same vein, when I bring somebody on that I may not have chatted with before, my goal is just to figure out a little bit about you, figure out kind of what you're at, what your thought process is. The reason I asked the Instagram and YouTube thing isn't because I'm telling you to change your channel. I'm not doing that. I'm just curious about what the rationale was with the difference between one and the other. And you gathered that I'm a very detail-oriented guy. So when I see a discrepancy, I'm like, okay, explain it to me. Just tell me why. I'm just curious. And I don't mind whatever answer you give is fine. I just wanted to understand better, and I thought that would be helpful. Now I want to take on something that Andy says here. Sports cards are not investments. Now here's the thing. I'm actually let me take a little bit of Andy's side on this one. I'm sort of in the vein with him. I'll say this: can you buy sports cards and make money on them? 100%. But you can buy a used lamp and make money on it. It's arbitrage. You buy it at a lower price, you sell it in another market for a higher price. Sports cards don't develop dividends. Do they appreciate in value? Totally. So does real estate. So does just about anything else. So if it's just making money on something, literally anything we've got surrounding us could literally be an investment by that limited definition. So I guess depending on your perspective, the answer is yes or no. For me, I like an investment to have some other way of generating income beyond just physically possessing it and having to sell it. But there is the interesting aspect of fractional ownership, which is trying to like circumvent this a little bit. But that's a long conversation. And that's a recent thing that's just come into a little bit more interest that I'm really taking a deep dive look at that I think is very interesting. But yeah, and Andy, believe me, I know that you were being sarcastic.
He's definitely being sarcastic. I forgot the guy's name, but someone on Twitter attacked him saying, "Hey, sports cards aren't investments," and that's why I brought it up. And
I think it depends on your definition, though. Like the point is, I understood that he was being sarcastic, but I also am looking at it from it depends on what you define as an investment. If it's just making money on it, literally anything could be an investment in that definition,
right?
Which is fine. I'm okay with it.
You can invest in your health. You can invest in you can invest in anything. It's like gold. Like you invest in gold. Yeah, it's just metal.
Totally.
But people perceive the value of it, and the perception of the value changes, and you can invest in that. You can invest in money. Like it's not something people should get worked up over. It's just
that I agree with 100%.
Right. It just is what it is. Like I believe you can invest in cards. I've bought cards. I've sold them for more. That's good enough for me. I make money off of it. Yeah. It's good enough for me.
Yeah. And the thing is, like I said, we're talking semantics right now. It's fine. The reality is you can literally make money on almost anything. Then if the concern is you can't make money on sports cards, that's definitively not true. We can prove that in a million examples. That is not true. You definitely can. Not everything will do equally. You're not going to get a dividend on it. There's no interest rate on it. So that part is out. We can't do that. But can you buy something at a lower price and sell it in another market for a higher price? 100%. COMC proves that in really quick transactions you can do. eBay can do that. You can do that offline. You can do that on Instagram. The market, maybe the better way is the market exists. It exists.
Correct.
So people buy and sell every day, all the time. So that part is 100% true. Now, taking off of this, the big thing that I look at, especially when I'm looking at a lot of these YouTube channels and the kind of the different approaches, the reason why I pay attention to it is that you guys are trying to create, and Andy in his way, myself in my way, where I'm trying to get to know some of these creators so I can understand what you guys are trying to do with your side of it. And you're taking a more of a humorous slant in it. You got Baby Yoda going on, and you got a couple different things. And that's good, because if everybody did the exact same thing, that would be really boring. And it would be, but it's different ways of trying to get good information out there, which I'm in favor of. So I advocate that. So Andy, what Andy's doing, I'm advocate for that, because he's teaching people some important things that they should know. You're trying to teach them some things in your way, and Stacking Slabs is trying to teach something his way. So I listen more than I'll talk, but when I'm on my channel, I will take my time and then I'll talk about those things. So when I get somebody on here and I get a chance to ask them some questions, it's so that the other person that watches it down the road can get something out of it. Because I spent the most time anybody had ever spent talking about that card ladder algorithm, and hopefully no one ever has to ask that many questions about it ever again.
I don't think you're the one that's talked about it the most. There might be some other people who talk about card ladder more than you.
On the YouTube channel where you made Chris explain it?
Yeah. Oh, no.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Offline, I don't care. Offline, you can spend days talking about it. I'm talking about on something that's recorded that we can play back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about. Yeah. Because it's not an interesting topic of discussion that you necessarily want to center a YouTube video around.
Yeah, and when me and Andy were talking about doing our YouTube channels, I watched his first, and he was just so boring. Like, he's not funny at all. I'm kidding, Andy. But my goal, I do watch a lot of YouTubes where the guy's really comical, a lot of sarcasm, and I wanted to bring that same type of energy while still educating. Because I know if I just sat here, showed you charts, and just said, "Hey, look at this card's going up. It's up 16.1%. It's maybe it's a good time to grab it. I think it's gonna go up here." It'd be boring. Like I know I'm not like going full comedy, but I'm also not going full like analytics. So I'm trying to blend in to keep people engaged and watching. So they'll want to come back to my channel, and then I can give them more educational information that I've learned over the past few years with cards. And yeah, Andy, and you are funny, but yeah, his episodes definitely are more informative. They're a lot longer. I think for a different age audience. I'm trying to go for the shoe flippers, like those guys who are coming in and they're looking for how do I really do this, the younger audience, and maybe I'm almost 30, so maybe like the 25 to 35 age range as well. But I know Andy's going to pull in more of the like 40 plus, and I'm going to get the younger audience. So that's kind of what we're going for.
No, and the thing is, I think there is room for all of the above. So you've got your style, you got Baby Yoda, you got Andy's bringing in his experience into it and taking his approach, which is very detail oriented, which I liked. That's part of the reason why when I saw it, I go, I like some of this. It's pretty good. And I think it's worth checking out. And I check out Brett's, and I just want to see how many wrestling references per like minute he can throw in there. And there's a lot. And I spent enough time watching wrestling where I joked about it in a different stream where I go, what makes me sad isn't that he's doing a million wrestling references. What makes me sad is that I know like 85, 90% of them. So when he throws them out there, I'm like, all right, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. But he's very enthusiastic about it. I'll give him that.
It's funny because the comeback card investor Brad, he
Mhm.
actually did a few episodes where he brought me, Andy, and Chris, the sports card PT, in, and
Yeah.
he wanted to do kind of a show. But we decided we're gonna work on our own brands, and he was talking to Brett too. So he kind of brought all of us together, and now we're kind of we're not a group, but we're working off of each other to kind
Mhm.
of build up all of our brands at once, so we can start hopefully getting to this audience that we want to educate. Because right now I feel like we're preaching to the choir. I have
Mhm.
like 300 subscribers. Andy's got about 300. I
Mhm.
feel like they're just agreeing with everything I'm saying. Maybe a few
Mhm.
people are coming in and they're starting to learn, but I'm really trying to get to that like 2,000, 3,000 people
Mhm.
who are watching those really hype videos where people are just like going through their cars like, hey, this is really hot, this card's really hot. Like, we want that crowd as well, because that's the crowd we want to teach, that's the crowd we want to keep in the market, so prices can stay where they are and not everything just crash, and then we really are just holding on the cardboard. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's the goal.
I think that's fair. I think one thing I'll say, and like I said, I think what you guys are doing, I like the way you're approaching it. I think it's fair, and I think Brett's also in marketing, is he not? From what I understand, from what I listened
He
to it,
is.
yeah.
He is.
And I get that sense because he's very good at hitting all the different platforms and making sure the pieces connect to kind of funnel back into the podcast and different areas. So he's been very good with that. I've been very impressed while kind of watching. I end up watching a lot of content because I like to see what different people's approaches are. Even some of the channels you're talking about, I need to see what they're doing. I need to
Right.
understand what it is they've done, because the only way you're going to know what the audience is seeing in it is to kind of test it for yourself and go, okay, what are we talking about here? And I've watched an uncomfortable amount of someone who has a lot of subscribers, and unfortunately, I lost the video to the same time because I wanted to do it, and I did. I used the StreamYard platform to do screen share and everything. I had a beautiful supercut set, and I literally got to tear him apart because he contradicted himself within 7 days of each other on the same card with two consecutive videos, and I
Right.
was like, "You're killing me, man." I was like, "Okay, say dumb stuff, but at least don't contradict yourself completely 180 degrees on the
Yeah.
same card within 7 days. You're
No,
killing me."
Andy's shown me some clips of some pretty bad stuff where a guy he'll say, "Hey, I don't think this card's a buy right now. I have some of them. I'm holding, but yeah, if I had this amount of money, I would buy it." Like, he contradicted himself like within like 60 seconds. So yeah, it's pretty bad out there, and people just eat it up and they love it, which is fine if you like that for entertainment. That's fine. But I really hope if someone wants to get serious about investing in cards, that
Mhm.
they find the right platforms to go to start learning the right way. Something I tell any new person, like, hey, what should I do? I say go back to like Mojo Break and
Mhm.
watch a break for every product for that year. Learn about the products, learn as like the season goes on, and you can learn everything. Not hype videos. Don't watch hype videos, and don't watch people sit there and say, hey, this card looks cool or it's shiny or stuff like that. Like, go back, watch breaks, because guys like Mojo Break, I love Mojo Break. They
Mhm.
will break down a product. They will tell you what the chase is. Like, they'll tell you Prism, no one likes autographs. They want color. Like,
Mhm.
you learn everything. Like, with as this season progressed, like, people didn't know what products existed until they came out, and then they were buying like the years before. And like,
That's
I
right.
made a post about that. Like, I was buying 2018 products before they released, and as soon as they were released, I was flipping them. So
Yeah.
it's like, because the market was learning, and those are the people who want to learn. And I hope that they do find the right platforms. I do hope they find Stacking Slabs and Andy and your show and my show and Chris Sports Card PT, and they really start learning it the right way, and not type in sports card investing and they see the first thing to pop up, subscribe to that, and only stick to that.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. One thing though, I'll add, and I'm not disagreeing with you because I think your point is valid. I think your point is very fair. Let me quickly put this on here. Also, I forgot to turn that on from the get go. But to anybody watching who doesn't already know, Andy already knows, so I'm not worried about him. But it's just got Jordan's stuff down there, his YouTube channel and his Instagram, in case you do want to check it out. And he's also got the Instagram on his name, so we're covered from 2 different spots, so we're good there. But one thing I wanted to say, and this is 2 separate things. I think the concept of this card looks cool is fine if we're talking about the collecting side of it. This card is cool is a perfectly valid criteria to buy a card that you think looks cool. I'm actually completely okay with that. It's not good investment advice, but I think it's a good piece of advice where if you think the card looks cool and you'd be happy having it, I'm not going to discourage you as a collector from buying the card that you think looks cool. I just don't think that's the main primary criteria of a purchasing decision where your expectation is to then flip it down the road. That might be the key thing. Because I laugh because when you were saying that, because here you go. Here's your influence, Jordan. I actually bought this card after seeing that on your Instagram. Because I thought the card looked cool, and it was, to be honest, I got it for like $10. So I was this is the hollow version, and I'm more than happy. I have 5 total basketball cards in my thing. This is the first LeBron James card I have had in my collection in 30 years. I just thought it looked cool. And if I hold on to it and it's worth nothing, I don't really care. I didn't pay a lot for it. Yeah, but as an investment, that's not a good thing to do. What's that?
Yeah. It definitely won't be worth nothing. Like
but that's what I'm trying to get at. From the criteria of it was a good price, it was cheap, and it looked cool, I'm perfectly fine to buy that, and I think I'll be all right. But if I'm looking at it from the investment perspective and I'm worried about it doubling, tripling, quadrupling in price, well, then maybe not such a good idea. Not necessarily the criteria you want to be using. So it can be done. I just thought it was funny that that one came up, and I was like, yep, I got that one.
Yeah, which recently I've since the market's been kind of dying down with football, and basketball hasn't really shot back up, I've decided, I'm listening to Stacking Slabs. All these other people are like, hey, buy cards you love and that you want to collect. So I was like, okay, I've been just buying cards to invest in over the past 2.5 years.
Right.
Like I'm gonna strictly buy something I like that looks cool, and I got a Baker Mayfield second year orange out of 49.
Nice.
And also a Jose Ramirez 1/1 autograph after he hit that walk-off home run the other night. And when they came in, I thought like, hey, these look cool, but I don't feel like a kid again. Like it doesn't make me feel like a kid again. Like I know people may defer on this on this thinking, but like it came in and now I'm thinking, what do I do with this? Do I put it in a box? Do I display it to where I can, just walk by it and just say, oh, that looks cool? Like, is that worth the money to me? Like for some people, yeah, it's worth the money, but the excitement wasn't there. Like it's not the same. Cause then I have, and this is just a giant stack. These are Jaren Jackson Jr. optics. I have a stack of 50 of them. I paid 50 cents each.
Yep.
So I paid $25. They're worth, I think $10 each now. So $500 for the stack. That's exciting to me. Like there's a balance to it that people aren't figuring out yet. Like there's like strictly collectors and there's strictly like investors, and like the watching Jaren Jackson Jr.'s prices go up is more exciting to me than walking past the orange Baker Mayfield. Like, so it's not quite like the collecting part of it. Like it's not, maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know what it is. So, but it's just not.
I'll chime in on that in a second, but I like the thought you're going through. So let me quickly just say, hey, Sports Card PT, what's up? So there you go. See, as you mentioned the names, they appear. It's like Beetlejuice, but you only had to do it once. But no, the thing is, the conundrum you're going through is perfectly normal, and I suppose the advantage of having been in the hobby the whole time since I was a kid till now is that I was able to go through my evolution as a collector gradually. I like the challenge of finding something undervalued and then maybe making a profit on it. That's cool. But I still love the collecting aspect. Like I still have my player PC that I put together that I've been working on. The player PC I've been collecting for 25 years. Some people have been collecting for 25 years, period, end of story. I've been collecting one player specifically for 25 years. The last 15 years of his career and then 10 years post-retirement. So I clearly enjoy doing it. Now, could I make my money back on those cards? Probably. I've overpaid for some, I've underpaid for a ton of them, and I'm doing fine in that regard. I honestly haven't cared in years. Sometimes I don't even look up the price. I don't even look up comps. I'm like, does it seem reasonable to me? Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. But I still get the enjoyment when the card comes in because I've separated out the hobby price part of it. Do I not care about value? No, I totally still care about value. I don't want to overpay for something that doesn't give me the enjoyment that does. There is a balance to your point. It can be done, but it's just you're not that passionate about the Baker Mayfield, even though he's a Cleveland player on a Cleveland team. If you do develop that attachment to it, then maybe it'll mean something more to you. If Baker and the Cleveland Browns do something kind of cool, maybe it'll mean something more to you. Maybe not, but it's an if. Something has to happen.
Yeah, I think part of that goes to like my background, and I know you wanted to get into that eventually with my collecting, like as a whole. Like, I never really was out of cards. Like my parents, growing up, would buy me a hobby box every Christmas. Of course, LeBron James came into Cleveland. I was 12 years old. I started buying LeBron James cards his rookie year with the thought process of selling later on after he retired. In his career. So as a 12-year-old, I had like an investing mindset over it was a mix of investing and collecting. So I ended up with, I now have a box of 1,000 different LeBron James cards, all different years. I look back, I wish as a kid, you knew that like Topps Chrome like was the, going to shoot up. I didn't know that as a kid. So I was just getting anything that had his name on it. But I was always that guy, just like in high school, I was trying to, go to yard sales and flip things. Like maybe it's just my perspective and just the way I've grown up. I just like everything I see, I'm like, hey, can I flip this? Like, can I buy this and, do something to it and make it more valuable? So maybe I don't understand. Like I knew Pokemon cards. I wasn't trying to flip Pokemon cards as a kid, but Pokemon cards bring back that nostalgia. The Baker Mayfield orange does not bring that back for me. So I know some people may not, agree with that perspective, but I definitely am loving the investing aspect of it. And when I got back into it seriously, right before Luca, started out. That's when I started getting in the products. My older brother got me into case breaks, and I hit a LeBron flawless, out of 25 jersey card on my first case break. So it's just I was hooked, and just looking at cards every day since for 2.5 years, and then that's where I saw like Trae Young and Luca. I'm like, hey, these guys, they look like the real deal. And that's when I started thinking like, hey, I can make money off these guys. So the investing part is definitely really exciting for me. It's more exciting for me than collecting. I know people.
I think that's perfectly legitimate. That's not a problem. It does kind of feed into a conversation though that I have with some of my hobbyist friends who are thinking that some of the new players that are coming into the market that are a little bit older, they're not necessarily kids coming in. Obviously, it's expensive. Not a lot of smaller kids are going to be necessarily playing in these areas, but some of those sneaker flippers and such that are maybe already in their 20s and they come in and they find this is a way to do it. But in their minds, they're like, oh, well, they'll get hooked on collecting. Well, maybe they will. I'm not saying for sure, definitely not. It's hard though. You hit on in your story, you hit on the key. You said the Pokemon give you some of the nostalgia feelings. The sports cards don't. That's not a crime. That's perfectly fine. But it sounds to me like for collecting purposes, the Pokemon just makes more sense for you. It actually has that association that you might be more inclined to collect Pokemon and more inclined to invest in sports cards. Pick up the odd Cleveland thing here and there. The LeBron cards might have some nostalgia in the sense that you did it early on, but you did it with an eye to the future of the day that you flip the box of 1,000 LeBrons. Right. So it's still a different, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. Where you can collect or buy for whatever reason you want. But that's the thought process that I've been thinking about for quite some time, where I'm like, well, guys, what is nostalgic for you isn't necessarily the same thing that's nostalgic for somebody else. The nostalgia for you was thinking as a young guy, trying to make some deals and maybe coming up with some cool ways of finding a way to make some flips and stuff like that.
Right. And that's part where I want to teach people with the investing part, how to make it exciting. And that's where I talk about like prospecting players, before a draft comes up, look into, their strengths and their weaknesses, watch some of their games and maybe you fall in love with the guy, and then as his cards come out, you can get them for really great prices, and maybe he explodes, and all of a sudden you have all these cards that are worth 10x of what you paid for it. Like, that's fun. Like, you just use, like, a lot of these people are in it because they watch sports. Like, that's what makes it intriguing. You grew up watching sports. Hey, I can make money off sports. It's like two perfect things. So I'm trying to teach people, like, hey, you can prospect these players, you can look into them. I'm already looking at the next NBA draft class, looking like who's my type of guy, who's not my type of guy, who does Andy like? He'll tell me, and we'll bounce ideas back and forth. I'll talk with Brett, I'll talk with Chris, and other guys, and maybe they can talk me into people. Like Brett talked me into Sekou Doumbouya. I just wasn't seeing it, but he showed me some things with, like, Dwayne Casey. Brought up Pascal Siakam. He's got Sekou, who's the same build, and like that makes a lot of sense. So I bought some Sekou, and now if he blows up in 2 to 3 years and those cards go up, that's exciting. That's the fun part of it. And just watching people go through their cards saying, hey, this guy's hot, his card's up 10x, go buy it. That's not fun. Like, maybe it is fun for someone. Maybe it is fun losing your money. I don't know. But
Vegas would argue with you that losing your money is a lot of fun because you do a lot of it.
Right. But yeah, that's just the overall goal of my channel, my Instagram, is to just educate and show people this is fun. I'll show some cards like, hey, I just bought this, I'm collecting it. But overall, I'm trying to show how to invest, and that's the goal.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And the thing is, I'm very happy that you explained that, because that's kind of something I was curious about. And here's the thing. I'm completely okay with your approach, because it sounds to me like the challenge, the figuring out the puzzle of what will work and what won't work is the interesting part for you. The hobby for you is figuring out the puzzle. It's looking at the data. It's making arguments, figuring out how these things are going to fit together, who makes sense, who doesn't make sense, trying to get ahead of what everybody else is getting to. That game, the gamification, that's the hobby for you. And that's okay. Like, guess good news, Jordan. There's room. You've got your spot. There's plenty of space for that. Let me quickly answer one question here, and I'll kind of continue from that point, because it's good, and that's kind of something I was curious about for you. So for Sports Card PT, I've been collecting Mike Modano hockey cards for 25 years. Stanley Cup champions, 98, 99. It's been a while, but they were in the Stanley Cup final this year, and the team fell just short, but Modano's been retired for 10 years. I still collect his cards. It's one of my favorite things. The other thing I like is vintage baseball. Love me some baseball history. Love that. I'll still get really excited about that kind of thing. That's the stuff that I like to collect. But also I'll pick up stuff that I think is kind of cool. I still get an enjoyment if it's interesting to me. That's why I said I picked up that LeBron card. Here's the thing, guys. I'll watch a little bit of the NBA Finals. It doesn't concern me that much. I'll kind of check out the highlights, but I still think it's cool. I still think it's kind of fun, and I acknowledge LeBron's place on the pantheon. Like, I acknowledge that he's moderately good at basketball. Like, I didn't really play a lot of basketball. He's probably not as good as me, but he's decent. He's fine. He's all right. But I acknowledge it and I respect it. But it's like something like that. The shiny card is cool, and then, like, that's a 53 Topps Mantle. That is fun for me. And that's not a high condition card, but it's a pretty good card. And stuff like that is still enjoyable to me. Stuff like that.
And yeah, I'll make the point as well. Like, this Jim Brown and Jim Thome, I got the older stuff. This brought more excitement to me than the Baker Mayfield. Like, this was cool. Like, you look at it and say 1958, Jim Brown rookie card. Like, this is older than me. Like, this is cool. This makes me, feel happy. Like, this is something I'm proud to display. I have some, I forgot the name, the 206 from
206 from 1909 to 1911. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. I just got a Cleveland guy because I wanted to have one of the oldest Cleveland cards that I could find, and it's cool to me. Like, it's just like, wow,
Vintage
this is awesome.
Its own rabbit hole where it allows you to do the study part. It's not just getting the shiny card because there's no shiny card. Not really. But you can dig into it and be like, all right, I don't know who this guy was. Like I live in Canada, over near the Toronto area, but there were minor league Toronto teams that are on some of those tobacco cards That team hasn't existed in 50 years or 100 years. But you can go back and go, back in the day, that was a professional team and they played out of this league and these were the players and that's how this guy ended up there. And there's a Hall of Fame player who was a coach for that team. And his card is more valuable than the other guys because he was a Hall of Famer as a player, but he ended up coaching in Toronto. And that's how he ended up having a Toronto card for that year. That kind of thing, you learn it by going like, okay, so why is this guy so much more expensive than the other one? Then you dig into it and you're like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. The history aspect of it is definitely, a lot cooler than, Baker Mayfield, select. Like there's not much
Baker's got some work to do to really build the history and develop the intrigue. He's a character, but it's one of those things like, I'm going to need you to play well for your character to translate to me caring that much. And the thing is, I bought like a couple of Baker Mayfield cards, crossing my fingers, going like, okay, you had a year to kind of figure this out a little bit. Here's the thing. This is a situation. I'm rooting for your team too. It's like, no, I want him to do well, Jordan. I want him to do very well. I need him to. Not, I got him cheap, but the thing is, I would like him to appreciate because I would like to flip that card. I don't need the Baker Mayfield. I got the select rookie, the hollow or the prism select for one of his rookie ones, and it's a nice looking card. But I don't really need it. It's a cool looking card. But it's one of those things. I'll be happy to flip it on to its next owner if Baker can help me out a little bit. So I just wanted to put the comment in here from Sports Card PT. So if this is your first time checking out the stars, it's going to be very interesting for you. Hockey, though, if you ever get a chance, obviously we can't right now, but if you ever get a chance, live hockey is a very fun experience. You should check it out if you have the opportunity because it's a great sport to watch live. Very enjoyable. So I'll quickly answer one more comment here.
I actually got.
Go ahead.
I got Chris in the hockey because I told him like two years ago when I started getting back into like investing, I was like, man, what sport should I look at? Like, I don't look at hockey much, but it's because I don't have a team. There's the Cleveland Monsters, they're an AHL team, like minor league. And I'm like, I need to pick a team and then just start rooting for them. So I was stuck between Carolina Hurricanes and Columbus Blue Jackets. And I was like, wow, Columbus Blue Jackets have a really terrible history. They're just like the Browns. Like this team's perfect for me. So I started rooting for them 2 years ago. And, I'm starting to learn about players. And I made a post about that. Like, hey, if you're interested in soccer, pick a team, buy a shirt, and start watching some games. You're going to learn, you're going to see some player do some awesome thing. And you're going to be like, you're going to start researching them and you're going to think maybe, this might be a good investment. And I've done the same thing with hockey, watching CBJ. They beat the Lightning in round one last year. And that was awesome.
Last year,
yeah, it was great. And they lost this year, but I'm still learning about the players and I've started investing in Pierre-Luc Dubois. And it's fun for me now. Like so I told Chris, like, hey, look, Dallas looks really good this year. Watch, just give it a watch. And he started watching it and they made it to the cup. Of course they lost, but now he likes it. So it's just, one person at a time, get them in the hockey and we'll grow. And, I'm in Charlotte, so they have an AHL team. And, I watched a live game when the Monsters came here and it was a blast. So,
yeah. I think that if you're going to convert somebody to hockey, it's much easier if you can take them to a live game because then you can actually get a better sense of what's happening. And if the play is high quality, like you'll get a sense, they're fast because they're going on those skates. And if they accelerate, all of a sudden it's like, boom. So things can move back and forth pretty quickly. And you've got the physicality if you like hits. So they are going to make some hits. That's not an issue.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. Like these guys are like punching each other, not like full punches, but they're like pushing each other after every play. The refs don't care. Like you really have to foul a guy for it to be a penalty. It's not basketball where the whistle's being blown like, every 5 seconds because some guy's flopping. If you flop in hockey, maybe you'll get a call if it kind of looks real, but more often than not, they're not going to flop because, they have a pride to them. They're hockey players. But yeah, it's definitely really fun to watch, from the physicality and the speed. And when a goal goes in, like you feel like, wow, that was really earned, most of the time. Like,
and
wow.
You can do it a lot of different ways. You can score with finesse, you can score with skill, or you can score ugly. You're the guy who stands in front of the goaltender. It's like, I'm just going to get in your way and we're going to make this work.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely. So let me quickly answer this one for Paul, because I think he's asked a question like this before. So let me handle this for him. So Paul, really easy, really simple. The early mid 90s era, when you're talking about Dallas, so he goes, is he a fan of boring hockey? Because Dallas took on a very defensive minded system. They were very much a fan of the trap era, especially under their head coach at the time, Ken Hitchcock. He preached like defense, defense, defense. Even the offensive players, like a Modano, defense. So he was a 50 goal scoring guy who became a 35 to 40 goal scoring guy under his watch, but became one of the best two-way players. So he added the defense element to his game. He was able to use his speed to actually catch up with guys, get the puck back, and try to set up a position. But it meant low scoring. Like this team here was a defensive marvel. Mind you, they won their championship in triple overtime with another defensively minded team, which was a slog. It was hours and hours and hours of painful slog. So basically, when Modano was starting up, he was a young speedster. His whole thing was that he could go end-to-end rushes. He was one of those guys. So he could do highlight reel plays, and he was lightning fast. And he stayed fast his whole career. I was a fan, Paul, of the highlight reel Modano. I tolerated the trap era Modano, but he was still a very good player because his skill couldn't be contained, even though he did play a more team-oriented game. Now, you can't argue with the results, though. They won the Stanley Cup. They got to a second consecutive Stanley Cup. And if the puck had bounced a little bit better for them, they could have been to 3 consecutive Stanley Cups there at the end of the 90s. So it's hard to argue with being a perennial contender for the better part of a decade. So that is the answer to your question, Paul. That's the reason why. And then I stuck with the team and I continue with the player. And then beyond that, I still watch the team now. They're not as defensive, although I take objection to his ugly jerseys comment. Some of the jerseys at the beginning were perfectly fine, although they did have some ugly ones later. That's unquestionable. Questionable decisions, Jordan. Questionable decisions. But that's not on me. That's on the merchandise department. I can't fix that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. But the thing is, everybody's going to have their own reason for collecting players, collecting teams, collecting whatever. Or, like I said, in your case, for you, it seems like the hunt is the most interesting part, but you still enjoy sports. You still enjoy the games. You still enjoy whatever. To your point about that, Jim Brown's a legend. Figuring out the story behind Jim Brown and what his history was and what he meant to that franchise at the time and the mistakes they made in pissing him off so he ran away, that's not so great. But the guy still stands up as like a pantheon guy, especially for running backs, which is very interesting, especially when you consider the history of the running back position. There are other great running backs, but it's Jim Brown kind of stays in that conversation, even though he's from that pre-Super Bowl era, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
And then Jim Thome, I just liked as a hitter. Tim Thome, I thought was great.
Yeah, he was my hero as a kid. Like
you wrote the love letter to him?
Yeah, I wanted to be. Yeah, I wrote a letter to him because my dad's friends with the owners, and he never wrote back. But yeah, I wanted to be Jim Thome. Like I wanted to bat 5th in the order, just like him. I wanted to wear number 25. Like he was the guy. I had the jersey and everything. When he left to go to the Phillies, like I had like a heart attack as a kid. I was like crying to my dad. I'm like, I'm not cheering for Cleveland anymore. Like I hate them. Like, why would they let him go? And he's like, it just happens. But yeah, it is what it is. But I did want to talk about you say the hunt. Like one thing I do enjoy that some people frown upon once you get older is getting autographs. Like since I live in Charlotte, the AAA team for the White Sox are here. So I've seen Luis Robert come through. Yohan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez. Like I've gotten all their autographs in person. Nice. I got Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr. when they came through. Like it's just really fun. And like I would just look at the top 100 prospects list, just like every day, like who's coming to town. And then when I learned, I can apply that to cards and I don't like to get the guys in, like the low A and stuff like that, but the guys in AAA who are coming to town, like maybe when their rookie card comes out, or maybe I can get their first Bowman, start applying that to cards. And that's where you'll see in my videos, like I'm trying to preach like baseball to some people, like, hey, this sport's going on. I know you see basketball cards shooting up, going down. You see football shooting up, going down, but baseball's there. Like it's just like slowly moving along. And there's some great players this year, some great rookies, and they're not getting the hype that I feel that they should. I know that baseball is not popular, but
it is and it isn't. The problem is in the younger generations, they've lost multiple generations. Baseball has done everything in its power to suck the joy out of the game. Right. And unfortunately, and this is the thing, I was a baseball guy first, and when it comes to the playoffs, I will watch just about every minute of it. I'm not watching it right now because I want to devote attention to what we're doing at the moment. I need to stay focused. Otherwise, I'd have it on the second monitor and I'd be kind of peering over. So, but I don't want to do that. I want to kind of be in the moment here. So we're in the moment. But generally speaking, I'll watch every baseball thing. That's why I out of respect, I didn't want to bring it up. But when I think of like Cleveland and I think of baseball, I have a lot of memories of those Cleveland. And some of the things, Jordan, I got questions. Like I watched them and I'm like, there are things that they've done that just frighten me. They're perplexing to me. And this is as a guy who was watching every World Series game since 1991. I've watched every single one. And even when my team was in it, when they weren't in it, it didn't matter. Like I've still got a little banner here. This is the 92-93 Blue Jays. Every single game since 1991, I've watched them all. But I can't understand the Cleveland Indians. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Even in the movie Major League, and I love Major League, they stop before they ever get to the World Series. You know why? Because even in the movie, they can't win the World Series. It makes no sense. It's even in fiction, they can't get there. And I'm just teasing you a little bit. I'm just teasing. But stuff's been crazy.
True. Like I was texting my dad who's 54 now, and I'm like, hey, Dad, I don't think you're ever going to see the Cleveland Indians in the World Series again. I'm sorry. Like 2016 was it. Like maybe I'll have a chance. But we're gonna die and we're not gonna see them win.
I think getting to the World Series isn't the problem. The thing with the Indians. So like I don't want to drudge up too many bad memories. What's the first of the World Series that you remember? The first of them in your lifetime.
So the was it 95, 97?
95 and 97 were the first two were the two in the 90s.
Right. I was 4 and then 6. So I don't remember too much of it. Since we're in Charlotte, my dad was in Atlanta. I remember him being gone and just coming back, brokenhearted. So I'm glad I wasn't too invested. You would be glad that you weren't invested for those two, because those are the first two really perplexing ones that I just couldn't get my head around. And I was old enough to be like, I know what's going on here, and I'm still perplexed. Right. Yeah. So most of my memories are with 2016 and the 3-1 lead, and the rest is history. I
can
got
offer you one consolation for that. I can offer you one consolation for that. Just one. I can at least give you something. You're not a Texas Ranger fan because they were so close so many times in 2011. It is the most embarrassing. I have that on DVD because I had to buy it. I didn't have a dog in the race, but I'm like, no, man, I got to rewatch this because I can't believe it. I saw it live and I still can't believe it. I have to replay this. It's incredible.
Yeah, that Rajah Davis home run off Chapman is like it's still like one of the greatest Cleveland memories, even though we lost that game. And he was in AAA last year, and I went to go get his autograph, and I was like, "Hey, man, you are still a legend in Cleveland. We love you." And he's like, "Who's the Indians?" Like, come on, man! Like you're a hero to us. Like that was just one of the greatest hits ever. But of course, the rain delay came, and the Cubs took over, and the rest is history. But we still got LeBron that year in that championship.
No, you did. You did. So. Ironically, an underrated year for Cleveland sports. Like you actually had 2 shots at this in the same year, which is weird. It's actually kind of crazy. But the thing with I don't know what you guys did. Whatever it is, apologize. That's usually my suggestion to a fan base. Whatever you did to anger the baseball gods, apologize, because 95, that team was stacked. Like it was stupidly stacked. But here's the reason I say this, Jordan, and I promise I'm not trying to tease you. I'm genuinely, as a baseball conversation, I'm too perplexed. It's been 25 years, Jordan. I'm perplexed. I watched every game of that series. I don't understand. Nobody loses to the Atlanta Braves. Nobody. Their whole shtick is that they lose. Literally in the 90s, they went to the World Series 5 times. They lost 4 times. I know because Toronto beat them in one of those times. Minnesota beat them. The Yankees beat them like a drum twice. And for some reason, that's the one. And that team was stacked. The 97 team, also stacked. Really good team. And they lose to the expansion franchise, Florida Marlins. Why not? The Charlottesville Sturgeons or some other AAA sounding team that I probably just made up. But that was weird. And then Miami doesn't win, like except randomly when they show up in the playoffs. Those 2 times for just 2 bizarre reasons, 2 completely different franchises. And then 2016, the Chicago Cubs, 108 years old. There was a 100-year-old lady who was alive. She was like a mini news story over there in Chicago. She was alive when they won the World Series in 1908. She lived to see them win and then died like a couple of months later.
I'm happy for her.
Yeah, but that was like her last like thing. She lived 108 years to watch that team actually win a thing.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah, but
yeah, it's tough, but I think it builds character.
It builds character. That's a good attitude to take. Sure.
Yeah, even my first boss out of college at Wells Fargo, he is like, Jordan, I know I can trust you because you're a Cleveland fan. Like you're going to be loyal. You're not going anywhere. I trust you. And I was like, look, you got me. Like,
have you thought about putting that on your resume? Loyalty is not in question. Reference.
I could. 29 years of Cleveland fanhood can be rough. We still have 2016. That's all I got.
Yeah, well,
I don't plan on seeing the Browns in the Super Bowl. You're right. I don't plan on seeing in a World Series. Columbus Blue Jackets. I saw them win their first playoff series. That was awesome. So I'm happy. Like I can die happy now.
Well, like, I think a lot of it. I think you guys got a little bit of a pass because the NBA championship was at least a thing, like a legitimate thing. No qualifiers, no questions. It was won. It was legit because I remember watching it. I was like, "Hey, Cleveland won a thing. Good for you guys." It's like it happened.
Yeah.
So at least,
all the.
Go ahead.
The other years that we were there, we lost. It's like we were there 5 times with LeBron, and we get one of them. Like that's okay. Like it's fine. Like the whole Kevin Durant showing up and just ruining our hopes for the next 2 is brutal. LeBron leaving again, like we didn't care. Like we have 2016. It's still like on my car, 2016. It's faded now, but I'll get a tattoo of the trophy. Like it's
okay.
I plan on dying with 2016. I don't plan on seeing anything else. But we do get movies, which is cool. We Major League Draft Day. The Browns were in that.
That's true. That's right. That was a Kevin Costner movie, right?
Right.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. So, if you think about the draft, like who's going to do dumb stuff on draft day, you're going to think the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, we got a movie for that, and it's great. It's good. It's really fun being a Cleveland fan. I can't imagine being a fan of any other like city or team. I like it's fun, just watching your team have like, a big lead and they're going to blow it like the Atlanta Falcons right now. But that was part of the reason why the Atlanta Braves thing was that's part of the reason why I brought up the Atlanta Braves is like, maybe I should have extended it to say no one loses to Atlanta. Right.
Period. I'll just stop. Like pick a sport. It doesn't matter that nobody loses to Atlanta. Although I suppose again, if it's any consolation, the Falcons losing the 25-point lead in the Super Bowl, I think is really bad. Like I think it's hard to top that one. Like it genuinely is hard to top that one. I
just tell Atlanta fans like, hey, at least you were there. Like at least be happy your team was there. So
yeah. Usually when my buddies want to get me, and what they'll do is because I've watched all my teams win in my lifetime, so I've been fortunate. But for some of them, it's been longer than others. The Jays was 93, so it's been 27 years. So it's but and the Stars was 99. But then I say like the only team that I have that has won technically in the HD era was the Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl 45. But the problem is, and this was a weird anomaly, that is the HD era. But you know those Road to the Super Bowl like Blu-ray sets they make? Like sometimes they sell those. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, the Saints in 2009 got one. In 2011, they got one. But in 2010, they had an issue where they changed distributors, and for some reason, they never released the Blu-ray box set, only a DVD one. So I don't get it in HD. And I'm like, how dare you? The year before and the year after. Right. I was like, you're killing me.
Yeah.
I was like, you're literally mocking me. You're literally mocking me.
Right. Yeah. At least you got, something to hold on to.
Yeah, well, I had to download the Apple one. I had to download the Apple like you can get like the like greatest games or whatever, and you can on iTunes you can actually download the thing and you get the HD feed, but it's like 720. So it is the game in its entirety. I can rewatch it whenever I want, but I'm like the year before and the year after. So they like bookended them. I was like, really, guys, you couldn't. Green Bay Packers are kind of a popular franchise. You could reissue the damn thing. It is the Super Bowl. You could probably do that. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how did you just randomly skip a year in the middle of it. So I technically do not have a copy of my team outside of that Apple download. I do not have a copy of my team winning a championship in HD, even though they did. That just made me laugh. I was like, I don't get it. So let me get a quick comment from Paul here. I got to give Paul a little bit of flack, though, on this one. So as an abused but loyal fan, Edmonton Oilers, Paul, your team won like 4 cups in the 80s. I think it's 4 cups in the 80s. It might be 5, actually. It might be 5. It's like, come on, man. Although one of them was 1990, but still, like, come on. You know, I can't quite give it to you. Oh, here we go. This one I like. Ooh. That one's not so great. Bills fan?
I don't feel
that was
bad.
just kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for him.
At that point, you're asking for it. Yeah, so it's 5 cups. I was right. Yeah, so you don't get you don't get to complain about the Oilers, man. I'm sorry. In 30 years, you can talk about it again. Five championships in basically the decade. You don't get to talk for a while.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a grace period where you're like, you don't get to complain about your team not winning if you've won within like 20 or 30 years. You're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. Yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. I do applaud. I was for whatever reason, because my buddy is deranged, for his bachelor party a couple of years ago, he decided he wanted to go to Cleveland. So we went to Cleveland. And we visited Canton.
To Cleveland.
What's that?
No, nobody goes on vacation to Cleveland.
Oh, but we did, apparently. This was his decision. And we were just like, really? This is what you want to do? So we went to an Indians game. We went to Canton. We did the thing, and I was sitting like, really?
Yeah, I'm sure you had a great time. I love Cleveland.
We had fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
The restaurants were nice. The drinking was good. Canton was fun. Canton was fun visiting. I did buy some Packer swag in the shop, so that was cool.
Yeah. I've actually never stopped in Canton. I've just driven by the Hall of Fame on the highway. Never felt like, I needed to go stop by. Maybe one day.
You should check it out. It's actually really well done, the inside of it. It's actually really well, like the displays and everything. It's actually very impressive. And if you want to enjoy the Clevelandness of it, they really make special emphasis to talk about the Cleveland Browns of the 1960s. Like they literally go out of their way. Almost excessively. I'm like, there were a lot of teams that won Super Bowls in 1960, but I feel like there's more Cleveland Browns stuff per capita. Like somehow they shoehorn some extra in. I'm waiting for the Jim Brown exhibit, like the Jim Brown wing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just speaks to the bad luck of Cleveland. Like it was the championships before it became Super Bowl in 65. Yeah. And like Cleveland won all these championships. Like they even won 1964. Jim Brown was there. Then he retires. The Super Bowl. Now the narrative is Browns have never been to the Super Bowl. It's like Jim Brown just stay one more year, we would have got one. But
that's fair. But the thing is, that was the organization that made him mad. Because I think, if memory serves me, I think the whole deal was that they didn't want him to do movies or something.
Yeah, I don't know too much.
You have to repeat that. I think your audio is cutting out. We'll see here in a second.
Sorry,
do you want to repeat that?
I'm losing you. Yeah, I'm losing you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so I just the only story I know was like he was like 27, 26, and he just decided to retire. I didn't know there was like a background. You said that they didn't want him to do movies.
Yeah, what happened was he was starting to get some opportunities because he was a star. Like he had, won championships and everything. And he was looking at it going like, hey, there's some opportunities for me out there to do something. And he did become an actor. Like he did do that for a little while and he had some success and was in some good movies for the time. Apparently they were like bugging him about it, basically saying like, oh, you can't do that, whatever. And he's like, all right, fine, I retire.
Cleveland.
Yeah. So he was like, if you're not going to let me do what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, see ya.
Yeah.
Good luck. Let me know how it turns out.
I believe it. Yeah, that's Cleveland. Cleveland ownership in a nutshell.
Completely unnecessary. It's like, why don't you let the guy go make his damn movie? Today, in the era of like LeBron, if LeBron James wanted to make a movie mid-season, they would let him leave mid-game. Make your movie, come back, LeBron. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. What can we do to make it more comfortable for? Can we shuttle you in back and forth from the movie set? Yeah, so it's a very different era. Jim Brown did not get that kind of treatment. Otherwise, I think it would have stuck around, and I think you probably would have had a couple of shots at it for sure.
Right. Yeah, but
it's an unfortunate story, but it happens.
I did want to talk about my analytics background for you.
Please go ahead, by all means.
We haven't gotten into like too much analytics.
Yeah, go for it.
Hour right now, but so I have a marketing degree. I got a marketing degree, came out of college, started to do that as my job, and I started thinking like, man, I'm much better with like Excel and data. Like that's my thing. So I started looking for analytics jobs. And then I became, a data analyst. And now I'm an analytics consultant for Wells Fargo. So I've started to realize that like, hey, this is the way my mind works. Other people's minds work differently. Like if someone wanted to invest in $100 card and it became $120, and I wanted to invest in a $5 card and it became $10. In my mind, I feel like I won out of those two because, I got the 2X, I got the 100% ROI. Whereas someone else's mind tells them, hey, I got $20, you got $5. My investment was better. So I started to use analytics with cards to see where I could get like the better ROI, the better return on investment. So I started playing around with Excel. Once I started seeing Luka and Trae Young cards start to go up a little bit, and look at like different variations, different products, and I started building like a spreadsheet where I can plug in numbers like this is my budget. If I wanted to buy this card with past growth, where would this one end up? And I started learning like these big chase cards, like the Prism and stuff like that. It's not where all the money's at percentage wise. It's not where you can get the highest ROI. Like you can get more with NBA hoops. Instead of Zion, you can get more with like the Zion Prism Instant Impact insert. Like that makes more money than just his base. So I started applying this and I started to find deals like all over the place to where I can just buy these cards and it started working out. Like historical data doesn't predict the future perfectly, but it gives you good insight. And that's where I was thinking like, not everyone thinks this way, but I'm going to, make my platforms and try to get that type of thinking out there for people, so it can be helpful for them, because it's definitely been helpful for me. Not many purchases I've made. I mean, recently, not many purchases anyone made. You're going to lose money unless you're just listening to these guys buying at the peak. But just analytically looking into the data, most of my purchases have been successul for me. And that's where it's fun, and it's going to get interesting now that the market is kind of just like a neutral zone to where we don't know if it's going to start blowing back up or what sport it's going to be or what event's going to cause it to happen. But historical data is definitely going to help with that, and that's where that's where my background is with analytics and how I want to apply it and show people my way of thinking.
Sounds good. So yeah, let's get into that for a minute. And by the way, if at any point any issues with time, just let me know, and we can. But now that we're into it a little bit, I'm happy to talk about it because I do have a couple points about it. We're done making fun of Cleveland sports. We're done. So let's. I have to tease you a little bit, Jordan. It's half the fun.
Okay.
You taking your lumps like a champ. I applaud you. You get my seal of approval. You're taking it. Now we're moving on.
I'm used to it.
We're leaving it alone. We're moving on. But let's get into your lane because there is some interesting stuff here, and you're hitting on it. Are you finding that you're the kind of spreadsheet and the kind of calculations that you're making in it, though? Obviously, there's a lot of fluctuations, and right now the market is kind of in this weird kind of adjusting phase. Money's shifting from one sport to another. Basketball stuff is shifting a little bit. Some of the stuff's already been priced in. I believe some of the basketball declines are just because they pushed it up so high that the performance couldn't sustain. Like even if the performance had been there, it would have been hard to hold it. It was unnecessarily elevated.
Right, and I actually have a fear with those prices. Like I look at Luka, his Prism PSA 10 was up to $2,000, 2,200 I think was the peak, and now it's down to about 1,300. My fear is that those base cards won't see those prices again for another 5 years. Like I just don't see it. Like people, they're getting smarter. So many people are talking about pop counts. Every channel is talking about pop reports. Go check the pop report and see how many there are. And while I do have my opinion, like it has a high pop because that card has high demand. That's why people are grading them. So you can't compare like a Prism to a Select that has different pop counts. And so the Select is more rare. Like you don't know that. Like it's just more. There's higher demand for the Prism, but yeah. Overall, like I'm afraid that those prices, those peaks, we're not going to see that again for a few more years. I just don't see anything that's going to get people excited like that COVID break, and then sports coming back as a whole, and just all this hype all around. Like people are going crazy off bowl scrimmages. I don't see it happening again. So if someone's watching this and like they're holding on to their Lucas and they're waiting for it to get back to that $2,000, I would say, if you're happy with the 1,300, like maybe liquidate now, you start, spreading your money elsewhere, and start, investing in other things. Because I just don't see it. You can give me your opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree with you to a certain degree. I think to your point that one of the key points that you said there was the hype part of it. And I do think that if the profits start coming down enough, and we saw this in a microcosm with the Project 2020 thing, it was inside of a bubble. We saw this happen where the demand shot way past like where it had any business going, to the point that those higher print runs came because people are like, oh, well, if more people are ordering them, then the demand must be higher. It's like, no, buddy bought 100 instead of buying 10. That's not the same thing as demand. Technically, demand is demand if we want to get technical about it, because if people are buying it, they're buying it. But if it makes no sense, if you're buying, 10 pairs of shoes when you're only going to wear one pair of shoes, you could say, okay, shoe sales are up 10 times. But it's like, no, people decided they're going to buy 10 pairs when the one would have sufficed. But that's not sustainable. They're not going to keep buying 10 pairs of shoes when one would suffice, right, when they no longer need shoes. It's a silly example, but it's the same concept. It's like the demand is you're adding up the numbers. The numbers are accurate, but you don't know the underlying subtext behind the numbers. We're just seeing the graph. We're not saying like, okay, are there these many collectors? Or is it just the amount of collectors that were already there with maybe a handful more are just buying much more? It's not the same thing. So the end result is on the other side.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of the Project 2020. I saw it. I was like, man, that's like free money. Like
it was for a little while.
Yeah, it looked crazy, and that was another one of my inspirations. CRT sports cards. Yep. He was putting out great videos with Project 2020 and using analytics to project, the volume of future sales, and like he was doing really well with it, and I've given him shout outs before. Like I really like his channel, and I really like what he's doing with numbers, and it just gave me kind of a inspiration, like maybe I need to show my way of thinking in other markets. And yeah, he's definitely on point, and he's a great guy. I've talked to him a little bit and asked him like, what are you going to do after Project 2020, and he doesn't know yet, but he was an inspiration, and the whole Project 2020 thing, I'm definitely guilty of. I didn't buy 10 of them, but I bought one, like thinking maybe this will work. But I bought a few more after that Griffey, and the numbers started to go down, but they were still crazy high, and now I've just stayed away from it. But overall, yeah, you're right. It might not be more people buying; they're just buying higher volume. But when you see things like the Luka card and Trae Young's, and all of them spike at the same time, and you just have to wonder like who's doing this? Like, is it one person buying multiple, or is it just gullible people being hyped up from these other influencers? And I put influencers in all caps now, because it's a very strong term in this market, because yes, you are influencing people are listening to every word. you say, and they want to know. And I get messages all the time on my Instagram, people asking me like, hey, what are you buying? What should I buy? I have $100. This is my budget. What do you think I should buy? And my answers are always like, buy who you like. Like, I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm not going to tell you straight up. But I think influencers, Gary Vee is definitely a part of that. He just at that time he just showed a card, and things would spike, and it was crazy. And I'm just trying to put myself in the mindset of one of those buyers of, okay, I'm looking at this card, I'm going to go buy it now. There's definitely hundreds of other people buying it, which is shooting the price up. Where are you going to make money in that? Like, it's the people who bought it like right before, and they're going to flip it a day later, that are going to make money. So I think it's more people getting into it through people like Gary Vee and through people like Jeff from Sports Card Investor. I think Jeff, he's definitely bringing a lot of people in. He's showing them like, hey, this can be a side hustle if you do it the right way. I haven't watched him in a while after he's done some breaks, and I don't really like him pushing some of his like market movers and giving picks. I don't like giving picks. The market mover, the tool is fine. It's just the price point, and the giving picks. Like, if you're paying $10 for the pick, and I know I'm rambling now, but if you're paying $10 to get someone's picks, you have to understand that there's hundreds of other people paying $10 to get that same exact pick, and when it comes out, they're going to go rush and they're going to go buy it. And I'm trying to put myself in that person's mindset, and I can't figure out the logic behind it. But I think that's where a lot of the spikes came from. You have influencers hyping. Maybe there are people buying multiple, and it was all just at one time that caused that huge spike in the NBA. And it also happened with the NFL. People buying as if a player was playing at a Hall of Fame level, and they were still 3 weeks away from stepping on the field. So it was all in people's minds. And it's like, as soon as someone steps on the field, the prices just started going down because they can't live up to those expectations. So that's where my last video, I talk about expectations, and like, buy someone with low expectations that you feel like has the potential to break those expectations, which it's really hard to find right now with people setting too high of expectations for players. So it's definitely, for me, I'm staying away from buying as an investment. That's where I started saying like, all right, I'm gonna try to buy something that would look cool to collect, because investing right now just doesn't. I don't think it's sustainable right now with all these influencers just putting that out there. So sorry, I know I rambled for a little bit, but
no, you hit on you actually gave me a couple of different things here that I think are interesting. So I'll talk to a couple of the things that you pointed out. I think there's an element. So for the Project 2020, I think the two things you're talking about, I think they work together. The reality was the numbers were real. So when you brought up Chris from CRT Sports Cards, you're 100% right. He's got some fantastic data. He does stuff through his website. He does the YouTube show only about once or twice a week now because he's back at work, which is fine. I actually interviewed him for the channel exactly at about the midway point of Project 2020 to talk about some of that stuff you're talking about. And then I'm going to have him back. We already talked about it a little bit. I'm going to have him back at just about card number 300, which is going to be coming up probably in a couple of weeks. And then card number 400, a little post-mortem, because at that point we'll have like the data set, all the print runs. We'll have a pretty good idea of what ended up happening. And I think it'll be interesting to have a conversation about it, because I'll be curious to see how his thoughts change over this next one versus at 200. And then we'll talk again at 400 and see kind of where he feels about it, because he's looking at it day by day and seeing that change. And he's got that perspective that the rest of us don't have. So I think that's very interesting. Right. I think to your point though, I think people got swept. I guess if I want to simplify it, just to make it as easy, the Wall Street, the whole monologue that they did where greed is good, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So the thing is, for me, greed is neither good nor bad. It just is. It's a fact of life. There's always going to be an aspect of it. It's like, how much do you stoke? It's a gold rush aspect. It's the gold rush was because of greed. People saw the opportunity to make money, and some people did. The people who got there early, the people who got the good spots early, the people who found the gold. And then afterwards, the people who made money were the people who sold the pickaxes and the things to the dumb people who showed up after the gold was already gone. So somebody makes money always, at all times. So that's what basically happened in Project 2020. If you got in early, low print runs, the whole bit, the prices started to inflate. The price inflating brought in more people. But those people weren't in because, oh man, these are cool cards. Some of them were, but for some of them, they're like, hey, because if you thought they were cool cards, you'd buy 1 or 2. If you thought, wait a minute, there's a chance to make a buck, then you buy 5 or 10. And then you start making money on that. And you go, well, if I made money buying 10, I can make twice as much money if I buy 20. And then everybody else got the exact same idea. And eventually you end up with the Shore Griffey and you sell 99,000 copies. And at that point, everybody was like, wait a minute, there aren't 99,000 people that will buy this card.
Right.
They don't exist. And that's basically what happened. And now we're seeing the other side of that curve, because now there have been a few print runs that fell under 2,000. And now the question becomes like, do those new ones that fall under 2,000 hit the prices of the old ones? Because 2,000 was a print run early on, and now it's a print run again. But now it's like, okay, if these new ones don't sell for the same price as the old ones, then the old ones will start going down in price too. Because a 2,000 print run versus a 2,000 print run, does it matter at what point in the project it happened? It's the same product, right?
Right. Makes sense.
So that's where it's going to be interesting. And that's definitely something I'll be talking to him about, because I'll be curious to get his take, because he's analyzing the pricing data too. So I'll be like interested in seeing what he's seeing. I'm watching his show, his episodes, but I kind of want to be like, all right, man, you're crunching the numbers. You tell me, what are you seeing? I'm watching it from a distance, but I can't be in it as tight as he's been going at it pretty much for the last couple of months now. Mm-hmm. So moving on from that though, to the current market and kind of what you were talking about as well. Some of those folks are going to stick around, but I think some folks are really overestimating how many of them are going to be, because it's what I said earlier. If you're coming into this game at age 20, is it going to be because of nostalgia, or is it going to be because, well, you saw the opportunity? If the pricing drops enough, all of a sudden you're not making the opportunity anymore, you find the next thing. Maybe you move on to Pokemon cards. Maybe you go back to shoes. Maybe you find something else. It could be whatever it is going to be. Maybe you start buying Bitcoin. I have no idea. Like, it could be whatever it's going to be. But if the profit motive is the only motive, and there isn't at least something you find in there that you can stick to, it's going to be really hard to stick around if the prices don't hold. And they can only hold at a certain level. And you used the Luca example. He's a popular guy, but I've seen people use the argument of like limitless demand. And Josh talks about this too. It's like, especially with the base card, limitless demand doesn't exist. It's like what happened with the soccer card example. Soccer is the most popular sport in the world. It was the most popular sport in the world last year too. And the cards weren't doing that last year.
Right.
So it's like the demand didn't come from Europe. Why wasn't Europe buying all the stuff? Why can we get any of it? Even for a little while. It's because they're interested, but a fan of the sport is not necessarily a fan of the cards. A Luca fan may want to buy a Luca jersey or a shirt or even a Mavericks hat, but they might not be interested in buying his card, especially if his card is $2,000. The hat is like $40. I can have like a hat with the Luca's number on it for $40 or a $2,000 rookie card. What am I going to do with the rookie card if I'm not a fan of cards to begin with?
Yeah, it makes sense. As definitely a lot of logic with that. And I know Josh, I had a conversation with him as well, and he's definitely, he does not like the base cards. And and I've talked about, like analytically the numbers show like higher percentage gains with base cards compared to parallels.
Percentage gains, I don't doubt that for 1 second. That's right. Perfectly logical. And our good buddy Jeff has made that argument in one of his videos, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it's like, dude, you're right, but okay, let's analyze this for 1 second, because this is actually a really good point. 100% true. It is an accurate statement. In a vacuum, it is true. If I've got a $10 base card and it is now a $150 base card, it has gone up 50 and X. If I've got a $500 insert that is now $700, it has gone up by a smaller percentage gain, but it went up $200 versus the other card, which went up $140. In terms of dollar value, the base card went up less, but in terms of percentage value, it went up a lot more. Percentage gain is not everything. It is relevant. It's a big deal, but it's like, it's not the same thing. It's easier to have a bigger percentage gain if you're starting from a lower number.
And that's where I use my Excel data
Mhm.
to compare just one budget, just
Mhm.
say $100.
Okay.
How many of the base card can I get? How many of that parallel can I get? And
Mhm.
if it's just one of the parallel, and 10 of the base, and it's showing me, it's helping me make a decision. I'll buy the 10 base. And
Mhm.
if it shows that I'm going to have a higher percentage gains, because then if suddenly I'm spending, the same exact amount, now you're talking, if a $100 card becomes 150,
Mhm.
and then the other one goes, 5x,
Mhm.
that's, that's
No,
$500. So
I don't disagree. I'm not
you're making
disagreeing with
more
you
money.
fundamentally, Jordan. I'm not disagreeing with you fundamentally. I'm saying that when I saw Jeff make that argument in the video, I said this can be true under the right set of circumstances. If you're buying the right card at the right price that has the right gain, totally true. Completely valid. And if you're getting it in on volume because you had your one card that you had 50 copies of, you bought it so cheap that it's hard not to make money. So you did good. Like you did it from a logical perspective. What I'm saying is that your metrics are accurate. Where it gets tricky though is if you're somebody who gets really greedy and is trying to buy 100 copies and you start going to eBay and hitting buy it nows, eventually somebody's going to key in on this and start increasing the price on that base card for you, and your ROI is going to shrink per card if you're trying to buy enough of them. If you're trying to buy 10, you're probably cool because you can probably get them right around the same price and take advantage of the gain. But if the price keeps going up on you eventually you'll start buying some base cards that will start eating into your profits for the other ones if you try to buy too many at the same time in one market.
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense. And I wish I would have seen that episode, that Jeff, maybe you can send it to me so I can
Yeah.
watch it.
It
Where
was
Jeff
it
talks
was
about
what he
that.
called the three lies. I'll send it to you. He called it the three lies. And I didn't disagree fundamentally with his concept. I just thought he left out some data points. And actually, this is actually a really good topic. And by the way, like I said, if timing is any issue, just let me know. But this is a really good one that I'd love to get your take on. This is actually a more general concept here. I love analytics. That's part of the reason I asked you to come on, because I think you're a great guy to talk about this with. But one thing that always concerns me is when someone does decide to share examples, but also decides to share analytics, which are accurate, but then you don't explain the underlying assumptions that you're making and you don't explain the context of the data. You show me a graph that shows that something's going up, but you don't include some of the details that, yeah, it's going up, but I cut it off where there was a dip before, or maybe it was high, or maybe it was lower before, and it's already in the process of going up, and you're showing a steeper or a more narrow curve. That matters because when I show you the graph, you're seeing something, but if I don't show you the whole picture, you don't realize what's actually happened that led you up to this point. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think I've made some posts where I talk about how data, it tells a story. Like there's a reasoning why something's going up.
Mhm.
There's a reasoning why something went down. And if you don't explain to your audience why this happened, maybe this player dropped a little bit because he got an ankle sprain, or maybe his card went up because he had 2 games in a row where he dropped 40 points, or it's there's a lot to it. And Jeff, what turned me off with him was when he talked about he broke a Zion Prism draft card, and he
Mhm.
didn't understand that supply on eBay was going to be minimal in the very beginning, and it was going to increase, causing the price to drop. And he made a video later talking about his mistake, about how he should have sold it immediately. And it's just supply and demand. And I was thinking, how's this guy, have so many subscribers and he doesn't understand the simple concept of supply and demand? And I don't want to sit here and hate on Jeff, but yeah,
Mhm.
data, graphs, they have stories to them, and I like to share, when I do show a graph, the story behind it. Or like the Dak Prescott one, I just asked a simple question: has he become, or not Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
has he become less talented? And that was just my question. And
Mhm.
people gave me their answers like, oh no, it's because Hopkins is gone, or his team's not playing well. And I'm sitting there, logically, I'm thinking he's still talented.
Mhm.
He this could be a good buying opportunity. I'm just putting it out there for someone. And the card prices have gone up from that bottom. They may have floored. That was like $76 where I showed it. They've gone back up to 100. So I don't know if that was because of my post or whatnot, but people
It was
saw
because
that
of your post, Jordan. You're a big influencer.
People saw that as a buying opportunity, whether it was from my post or not. And they bought it, and it's going up. He's still talented. So it all tells a story. I'll definitely have to watch that episode with Jeff and see what he has to say. And maybe
I'll send it to you so you can check it out for yourself, because I'm a big fan of, like, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'll just send you the link. Check it out for yourself. And for fun, I'll send you the follow-up link. And I'll point you to the right spot. I'll point you to the right spot where he contradicts one of his points in the first video. That was where I had a lot of fun with the contradiction, where he was talking about the same card. I enjoyed it. Very fun. It was good times. Oh, hold on. Jordan, you're going to have to make the decision for Paul here. Like, he's still staring at it. Like, this decision has been going on for the whole stream here. Like, I don't know. This Deshaun Watson rookie might get bought today.
I will never tell someone to buy something. It's all you.
Yeah. Paul knows. Paul likes to have some fun too. But but the thing, your point's valid though. The reason why I wanted to bring it up though is because I needed somebody else to say it. I'm saying it on my channel a lot, but I need someone else to say the words out loud, just so people will hopefully understand that it's not just me. Data is good. Data is helpful, but it's a tool. It's a tool in the toolbox. It's not going to build the house for you if you have no idea which end of the hammer to hold. It's not going to work that way, because what I'm seeing is data malpractice. I'll call it data malpractice. They're using data that is correct in a vacuum, but then you're not using it in a proper way, because if I'm not savvy enough to know that, oh, well, if I take the same graph and I push back 30 days, the picture suddenly changed. And now suddenly it makes a lot more sense. It's like, wait, actually what you just said to me was inaccurate. If I look at 30 days of data that went further back and then kept the same graph, suddenly the picture has changed completely. And it's like, wait a minute, you told me this, but when I look at it this way with an expanded graph, now I have a better understanding of what just happened here. There was a dip before this increase, and the dip can be explained by the timing of the dip. And that's where you can do your digging and figure out, wait, why did this happen? Now I understand.
Right. And that's when I show my graphs, I like to just show like last 30 days, but I definitely understand what you're saying. And I think I made my second episode, I talked about stimulus checks, and I looked at the timing that they came out, and I looked at the card market, and everything went up when those cards came out. And to me, it made sense that people were getting checks. They didn't have sports to bet on, so they were buying cards. And there's a guy that commented on there. He said, "This is completely false." I was like, okay. And I actually recognized the guy from when I used to be in the Sports Card Investor Discord. I recognized him. So he's a follower of that channel. So when he just said, "This is completely false," I told him, I gave him my logic behind it and said, tell me where I'm wrong so I can, understand and maybe, better look at this data in the future. And he never replied. But still, like you look at a bump, it started to go down. Why did this happen? If you just show a graph, if Jeff just showed a graph and saw something go up and down and then shoot back up and just say, hey, just mention this, and didn't show any of the backstory, like maybe it was the stimulus checks that showed to go up. And if you don't give the background to the data, it can be manipulative to people who aren't used to looking at that kind of stuff, or they need it, kind of told for them. I'm not saying stupid or anything. I'm just saying people think differently. I look at it and, I may figure out the story on my own. I may not, and I may need someone's perspective. But everyone thinks differently, and we interpret data differently. And it's good to understand the why behind, ups and downs. And if someone's not giving that, and it's not effective. If you can't tell me why something's gone up or gone down, then I don't care about the graph you're showing me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that right there is the underlying point, is that I've seen enough channels that will use the data without providing the context. They'll simply they'll try to tell the news. They'll say this card went up 30%. And I'm like, cool. Why?
Yeah.
It's like, it went up 30%. This might be accurate. That might be 100% accurate statement, in which case you're reading the news off the teleprompter, but you haven't told me. But in that case, you've told me nothing, because If it went up 30% because, he was on a national commercial campaign, some people just decided they had to buy it now, and then by next week they've forgotten about it, then the 30% increase doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. If
Right.
you can
And
provide some context, it's like, okay, now I understand maybe there's a reason why it went up 30%.
Yeah, and Andy, sports card investigator, showed me some episodes. I'm not going to say the guy's name, but he was showing market mover data and showing everything that was dropping. And I watched the clip, and he was going through these players and dropping, and he was saying, "Hey, these might all be good buys right now." And I was looking through the list, and I was like, "Okay, that guy got injured. That guy's not playing anymore. He got bounced from the playoffs. He got injured. He didn't say any of that stuff. He just said, "Hey, guys, this stuff has dropped. It's probably a good buy." And I'm sitting there thinking, like, no, don't go buy this. It's just going to keep dropping. Like there's not a bad reason that these were dropping. They were dropping for a good reason. And, if that's dangerous. That's dangerous when you have someone with, 2,000 plus subscribers, or, it's not even the subscriber count. It's the people, engaged and watching that, and they're looking at that and they're saying, okay, I'm not an expert. He's on YouTube. He must be an expert. So he must be right. So I'm going to go and buy this. And if they're buying a card on a decline that just declined, the most for the week, or the past couple of days, it's probably going to keep going down, unless it was a bad reason that it was going down, which isn't very common. If something's going down, there's usually a good reason to it. I don't know the case by case basis, but that's where I like to look at things dropping or things going up on Card Ladder, and I like to know why. I like to go through and say, okay, this guy's up because of this guy's down because of this. But if I see a card, then I'm like, hey, this is dropping. I don't understand why. That's where I'm going to post it, on Instagram, and say that this Deshaun Watson's dropping. He's still talented. I knew the team was doing bad, but I wanted to see what the market felt about it. So that's why I just asked the question, why do you guys think this is? And people start saying, hey, his team's not good. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
I think that's a legitimate, for Deshaun Watson specifically, I think that's a legitimate counterpoint, just because it's not that he's not talented. It's that they gave away his best receiver for effectively nothing. The coaching staff isn't very smart. The future prospects are like, it looks like they're setting him up they've offered him a lot of money and he took the deal. So he's going to be around for a while. He's the franchise guy, but it doesn't feel like the pieces around him are being built for his future success. And that's probably hurting some of the thing, because you look at him and go, I think he could be good if you give him some help.
Right. And that's where, research comes in with players you want to buy. A lot of people just like to say, oh, Deshaun Watson, yeah, he's good, so I want to buy that card. But you have to look at coaches, you have to look at surrounding teammates, you have to look at past player development. Like, all those things matter if you really want, and not just, I'm not talking directly to you, I'm talking to anyone listening to this. If you really want to get into investing, you have to look at every aspect of it, player development. Like the Cleveland Indians, their pitching staff is really good. Their pitching development is really good. Their hitting is not very good. Like they have Cy Young pitchers just about every year. So I know people don't like to invest in pitchers, but if you're Shane Bieber, or if you're a pitcher and you're on the Cleveland Indians, I'm buying your card. I'm going to invest in you. If your arm blows out, shame on me. But it's because I know the Indians and I know their development, and my Shane Bieber investments have done well. But there's so much to it. There's so many variables, so many aspects to look into it. And that's the fun part for me. If someone's getting into this and they don't find that fun, then maybe investing in sports cards isn't, for you. So
Sure.
I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I think there's a lot of validity to your point. Let me segue off of what we just talked about, because there's a really good segue here for this, and it's something you talked about recently. It's something that Josh has talked about, but I think it's been taken a little out of context, and I'll ask him about it to get some clarification as well. Talking about football and talking about some of the non-quarterbacks, because they create a bit of an interesting situation. Because I understand trying to find quarterbacks are expensive, especially now, because now they're baking in the price early. They don't give them it used to be that they used to have a little time to develop, and it feels like 100 years ago. But when Aaron Rodgers was drafted by the Packers, they had Brett Favre. So Aaron Rodgers wasn't going in the first year. He didn't go in the second year. He went in right around the third or fourth year where he had been sitting on the bench for a couple of years, and then he became Aaron Rodgers. And then things continued from there. They were allowed to develop. Now the guys have to come out of the block and be like, all right, we need you to save the franchise basically from day one. We got to almost throw you out. And some of them aren't ready. Some of them don't develop right away. Patrick Mahomes has an amazing team around him, a great head coach, a beautiful structure, and he's talented. And he got to spend a year sitting. His first season, he didn't play until the very end of the season. So when the moment came, he was ready. They had been working with him for a year already. So they took his talent and then next leveled his talent. And now the dude's scary. But that's not normal. That doesn't happen all the time. You have talent plus talent around him that's scary. And all of a sudden you got this amazing team that's fun to watch and all the pieces fall into place. But for these other position players, I understand looking at the price of like a Patrick Mahomes is too expensive. I wouldn't want to go run and buy his rookie cards right now. It's too hard. And I get it. And the other quarterbacks, even the guys who are lower tier, quote unquote, are getting more expensive. So I get the idea. But running backs are risky. Even the really great ones, super risky because of the position. Even great ones that are established, and all you have to do is look at the guys that have already been through the wars and are still hanging around. Adrian Peterson in running back years is 150 years old.
Yeah.
And he had great seasons, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. The day will come that he will be a Hall of Famer because he was a 2,000-yard back, because he was great year after year after year. At the end here, he's just putting up a couple of more stats here at the end of his Hall of Fame career. So he's a made man. But you're looking at some of these other running backs, it's like, even if they're great for a while, it's hard to invest in them. If you like them, collect them because you like the player. Don't invest in a running back who can blow out his knee in year 2 and you're done.
Yeah. I think I've made my opinion pretty clear on Instagram when it came to the position players. I know I had a conversation with Brett on stacking slabs about it, a couple months ago. I talked to Josh about it a little bit. My first thought was, okay, there's a quarterback rule, unwritten rule. Why is that? And I had to sit there and think, this. So you have these veteran investors who have kind of set this unwritten rule. There's got to be a reason for it. So I kind of sat back and I was like, okay. So you look at a team. There's 5 guys being paid to protect him. So you have 5 guys being paid to protect your investment, whereas you have receivers and running backs who are being paid to have the ball, and then they're going to get tackled unless they score. That's risky. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, I understand the logic behind the fantasy sports cards. Maybe people are going to go those guys who are scoring a lot, and I didn't buy any until my last episode where I said I was buying like handcuffs, like running back handcuffs, like just in case a guy gets hurt to see what would happen, and I've made money off of it, which I was just predicting the market. And that's worked out for me. But overall, the position players, I was just wondering, why is there a quarterback rule? And I stuck to the quarterback rule this year because I was in sports cards last year too. And nobody was talking about the comparison of fantasy sports and, position players and cards. There was still a rule, you buy quarterbacks. So, and the market was still growing, early, the 2019 season. Like it was growing. It was a little bit before Gary V, but it was starting to build up. And then I was there for 2018. That was before Luka hit and everything started blowing up. But I started to learn, like, okay, so I'm gonna look at quarterbacks. What about second year Mahomes? What does second year Mahomes Prism silvers do? They did really well. So I started getting, the third year Prism silvers for pretty cheap, like $25. I think last I saw they're up to like $200 raw. So I'm like, okay, so you can still stick to the quarterback rule. You don't have to get their rookies. You can get their second year and third year and fourth year. If it's a guy like Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson, you can still invest in them. And they're still protected by 5 linemen every single play. And, go back to the analytics, the percentage gains are still there from when the product comes out. Supply hits eBay, because when people open products, some people are going to send the grading, but some people are going to try to capitalize on those high prices while there's low supply. And they're all going to throw it out there. So then it's going to become high supply. and you can use analytics to find how long it's going to take for it to hit a floor and then bounce back up. And I've used historical data to find out how long that is for certain products, and I've been able to buy at the floor for a lot of products. And if you buy at the floor, you're not going to lose money.
Yes.
You're always going to make money. So I've stuck to the quarterback rule, and it looks like people were hyping up position players a lot, which is fine. They did shoot up, and then play started. These guys started getting hurt. People realized this isn't that great of an idea, and they started panicking. Now prices are going down, and I'm just glad I wasn't involved with it. So that's my stance on it, and I'm gonna stay there. I'm gonna stick with quarterbacks.
That's fair. I think the conventional wisdom was for a reason. And this is a conversation that I've had offline with some folks. It's like, it's not that we hated running backs. It's not that we hated wide receivers. It's not like we're discriminating against, oh, I hate that position. It was the injury possibility was a thing, but it's also the positions are dependent. The quarterback gets the ball basically on every snap, at least at the beginning, before they hand it off to the running back or throw it to the wide receiver or throw it to the tight end or whatever. So they dictate. The offense tends to get driven with most systems through the quarterback in some way. So they get to touch the ball on almost every play and every offensive play. But whereas if the running back, if suddenly a team falls behind, the running game gets shut down. So it's not that the running back was bad. It's not that he wasn't doing his job. It's not that he's no good. But when you're down by 20, you're not going to start running the ball and killing the clock. It's a logical, strategic decision to take the running back out of the game because now we can't do it right now. If we're ahead, we can establish the run, and suddenly I care a lot more about handing off to that running back. I want to have him make some plays, and it's all good. Wide receiver, same thing. Maybe you double the wide receiver because he's the only good one on the team. He's still good, but because he's good, you double him. So now the ball doesn't go his way. And it's not his fault. He was good. He was being punished for being good, but that means his stats suffer. So it's like there is a logic to it.
It's just like an ace starting pitcher. Like you're going to go against more often than not the other team's ace. So you're looking at a low scoring game. You may take a loss on your stat sheet, and if people are investing game to game, if Shane Bieber comes out and he goes against another like Trevor Bauer, and it's a 2-1 game, Bieber gets a loss. People, if they're investing day by day, they're going to say, oh, Bieber lost, but really he pitched a great game. He just gave up 2 runs. So it's there's a lot to it, a lot of dependencies with football. I do like to compare the quarterback or the stay away from position players rule with the pitchers rule because of injury risk. So I do like to compare those two. That's why I brought that up. But yeah, I definitely agree with the position players being dependent. It's same thing with defensive players. They're just, they don't have the ball in their hands most of the time at all. I haven't looked into it yet, but I do plan on looking at the data to see if percentage wise, if defensive players are worth looking at. I haven't gotten into it yet, but there may be a chance that maybe a guy gets a pick six and his card goes up from $2 to $5, and the percentage is there. So I haven't looked at it yet, and I know that's just small.
This is just me thinking in my head. I don't have any data to back it up. The only guys that I think have a shot at maybe getting a little bit, and obviously percentage gains is percentage gains. That's going to be a different data point. The only guys that I could think of that maybe have a shot are maybe some of the safeties, guys who could do like flashy interceptions and could like take over maybe half the field and force the other team, because then they can get on the highlights. So from one aspect, it helps that it's like you can have flashy plays. That's why I know wide receivers or some of them are going to get some additional play, because it's like, did you see what Randy Moss did? Did you see that play? Did you see that catch? And if they're doing that on a consistent basis, that's helpful. That's huge. But again, it is a dependent position. As a safety, maybe they just don't throw your way. You're still doing your job, but you're doing your job so well they avoid you. They just refuse to even throw it in your direction. And then that's not your fault.
Right. So yeah, I'm starting to agree with the quarterback rule. I know some people are still hopeful for position players, but those first 2 weeks were brutal. And it really sent a message to the market. Like even the guys who weren't getting hurt are starting to drop, because people are like, I have these cards. I can't wait for them to get injured. I'm up, however much money, I'm gonna get rid of them now. So there's panic selling for guys who aren't even injured. So the injuries are just, shooting a sonic boom throughout the hobby right now, which is causing people to be a little on edge about where to go next. And that's where I tell people, like, baseball, look at baseball.
Yeah. So let me do one thing, and then I got a question for you based on that, because it's just a general question. We're just talking through a little bit of a concept. So let me just say hey to Jeremy here. Evening, Jeremy. But one thing I'll ask you, and this is kind of Josh's angle lately a little bit. I don't mind so much looking at the guys that are a little bit more made men, that have already put up some of the numbers where it's like, you know what, if they stop right now, they're probably heading to Canton. They're already on their way there, or most of the way there. Maybe they've got some of the credentials, and you're not worrying about the young guy trying to establish himself. You're saying, nope, this guy's already pretty much there. It's just, Larry Fitzgerald or something where, like, once he's done, we could be like, wow, that guy was really good. Those kind of guys may have a little bit of room. Adrian Peterson in the same vein, maybe, if some of the guys look at a long-term play saying, well, actually, these are some of the best to ever do it at these positions. And if I like that part of it, then at least I don't have to worry about them getting hurt once they retire in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I see that as more of definitely long-term play.
Yes.
Whereas the market we're in, a lot of people are looking for the next short-term play.
Sure.
Yep. So with this hype period that we had, and people, buying guys like Michael Thomas, Larry Fitzgerald, my thought process is, if you thought they were great before, why weren't you buying them, months before? Like, why are you waiting till now to buy it? Like, if you really like that player, why weren't you buying them last year, his rookie cards last year or the year before that? You're just waiting now for the long-term play. So yeah, it's definitely something where you can say, okay, I can put $500 in a Michael Thomas RPA and hold on to it, and it's going to be $1,500 in 5 years or when he retires. And if he retired right now, I don't know if he'd be in the Hall of Fame, but he'd have a good
player. Yeah, it depends on the player, but yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely look at that, and I'm just like, I'm looking to make money now. So if I have $500, I like to compare, to other players, like who else could I get for the $500? And if there's like a Kyler Murray card that I could get, who hasn't established himself as well, but I know his potential is there, I would rather have the Kyler Murray over, even if it's a lesser Kyler Murray, over like a Michael Thomas or the Larry Fitzgerald, because I'm trying to make. I don't want to sound like a flipper, but I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to get the highest percentage gains as quickly as possible, and that's what I'm using the analytics for. I know you feel safer with the LeBrons and the Michael Thomases, and that's fair. That's a smart play. You're going to make money, but for me, I'm trying to make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time, using historical data. So yeah, I'm not too much into the long-term plays. If I want to do long-term plays, I would just buy stocks.
Okay. No, that I kind of wanted to get a sense of where your head was at on that piece, which is fine. That's but it goes back to what we talked about earlier, though, like the collecting versus the challenge that you find from. Clearly, that's the area where you get the most enjoyment out of it. Because to your point, if you wanted to do the longer term play, you'd go after more like stocks, something like that, that's set up for that kind of a vehicle. But let me ask you this then. Let me kind of circle it back around to the collection that you had built previously, and you've done it because you referenced it on Josh's, where when you were younger, you started collecting LeBron James. You ended up getting volume. You got a lot of, I think, 1,000 LeBron James cards or thereabouts, something like that, right? How did you feel about kind of Josh's thought and process towards the consolidation model? Because you guys were talking about that a little bit for a couple of minutes. Is that something you would entertain, or are you going to just kind of hang on to the 1,000 LeBrons until whatever time?
So I've thought about it, but as these smaller cards are going up, the bigger cards are going up as well. And what we've discussed, we've seen the smaller cards, the $2 cards may become $4 cards. The percentages are getting higher than those bigger cards. So consolidating, as a whole. I'm not sure yet. I have taken my box to my local card shop and set them down, went through it with the owner, and he offered me, $1,000, $1 per, and I just said no, thank you. And that was
Right.
that was right before March, so I'm sure he's because I said I'll take 2,000, I'll take $2 per, and he said no way. So it was right before March when everything blew up. Now they're about $5 to $10 each. There were some tops 221s in there
Right.
that I got graded. Like there's a decent amount of rookie cards in there, that I haven't gotten graded. They're still just sitting in there, but the consolidating does seem like a lot of work. Whereas I do have those; they're in the box. I feel like if I just hold on to those longer, I've been collecting those my whole life. It's not something I'm in a rush to get rid of. I can use like my Jaren Jackson Jr. method, and I've gotten $9.50 gain on all of these. I could get them graded and get higher percentage gains on it, and then buy the big LeBron that I've always wanted. I don't have to use my LeBrons, my smaller LeBrons, to get the big LeBron.
No, that's fine. I think hopefully it's been abundantly clear that I'm very much of the mindset that there is no wrong way to approach this if you're happy and comfortable with the approach and you've taken it from a thoughtful process. You've thought through what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, in which case do whatever makes you happy and do whatever works here. You're running the numbers, and if it works that way, it works that way. I'm fine with it. So then my question is, based on what you just alluded to, though, is that still the goal down the road, though? Because as you said, the challenge seems to be kind of the interesting thing for you, the flips, coming up with the different possibilities, doing the analytics to work with it, obviously playing into it. Do you still want the big LeBron? Because I know you asked Josh about like his big RPA and got to do a nice sigh when you heard his total and what he paid for it. Is that still something that you'd want to do, though? Would you still like want that big, massive card at some point if the opportunity presents itself?
I do want the big LeBron rookie with the Cleveland uniform and the autograph, just because I'm a Cleveland fan, and he's like the guy in my dad's lifetime who's 54, and he's seen one championship in his life, and it's because of LeBron. And this is the one championship in my life, and it may be the one championship in our life as a whole. We don't know. It's just not looking good for Cleveland sports, but LeBron's still that guy. He's that guy that I looked up to as a kid. I tried to match my shooting form just like LeBron as a kid. I wanted to be like LeBron, just like with Jim Thome with baseball. So yeah, I would love to have a card like that one day. It's just with the way the market has just exploded, and those LeBrons are exploding as well. It would depend on the price point, because I look at the like $10,000 for a piece of cardboard with some ink on it and jersey. Right. That's a lot to me, and that's something I did want to go into about my motivation for investing in cards, and what makes me excited when I see big gains. I don't like to just keep the money for myself. I like to compare it to other things out in the world. And I got my last PSA sub back, and I looked at a Trae Young Prism PSA 10 that I got, and I said, okay, this is $500 right now. And I looked at sponsoring a child in Africa, because Africa is going through a lot right now. Sure. And I said to myself, I could hold on to this Trae Young, this piece of cardboard in a box, where I can change someone's life. So I decided I sold it, and I spent the $500 to sponsor the kid for the year. Nice. And I've done this with 4 other kids. So I look at stuff like that, and I see like a $10,000 card, $20,000 card, and I keep some of the money for myself, because I got bills to pay. I got my job that pays for a lot of stuff. I want to put some money away, pay off student loans, stuff like that. But when you look at big chunks of money like that, you really have to think to yourself, like, do I really want to just have this piece of cardboard displayed for me, or can I do other things with it out in the world? So it'll depend on the time. It'll depend on the card. It'll depend on where I'm at in my life financially. Hopefully, maybe I'll have a card like that one day, but it's not in my scope for like the next 3 to 5 years. I'm definitely trying to consolidate student loan debt, and cards are doing really well for me right now. Like, I'm going to be able to pay off my student loans with cards, and that's crazy to me, while I'm still able to, live comfortably with my day job. But yeah, overall, if to me it would, I'm not saying people are selfish, but it would seem selfish for me to buy like a $10,000 card.
Okay.
If I was able to, get $10,000 off the cards I have right now, which I
Right.
definitely would be able to, I think I could get like $20,000-$30,000 off the cards
Okay.
I have right now. But
Mhm.
if I just bought another card with that and just held
Mhm.
on to it, that seems selfish for me my point at this point in my life.
Jordan, you surprised me with your answer. I like it. I was that was like no. The thing is, I was genuinely curious because I don't know if it's come up at all in any of your discussions or in the channel or anything like that. I don't think that piece of it has come up with it. Although that was a very interesting answer, and it's valid because it goes back to why you do what you're doing, what you would want to do with it, and everybody's got to make their own decision of what it is they are happy with or what they want to do. For you, you're taking the perspective of what else could this $500 or $1,000 or $10,000 mean in my life or somebody else's or whatever in the grand scheme of things. What does it mean? And not everybody's going to be super comfortable with it. And I think it's interesting because I don't think there's a wrong answer to it. And I think your answer is as valid as anybody else's. And what I've always thought, so that's one angle to take on it. I've always thought it also doesn't make sense at a certain price level, because at a certain price level, you no longer want it around your house no matter what. Even if you have all the money in the world, is that because it happened kind of in your interview with Josh. He has the card, but the card has to be in a secured facility somewhere. It can't just be hanging around the house. It wouldn't be the kind of thing he'd want sitting around all the time. And I've always thought that was it's again, no wrong or right answer on that one. But I've always thought if you're reaching that price point where you can no longer have it around you, you can't reach out to it. This is one of my favorite cards. Is it worth a couple of bucks? It is, but it's not worth so much money that I can't possibly have it in my house. There's levels. If this was a PSA 9 or something, well then yes, I can't have it in my house anymore. It could be the same card, but it's all relative. It depends. And I've always thought if I can't have it around me, well then it's not as much fun.
Yeah, makes complete sense. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to have a card that I just could tell people I had, like, hey, I have this this LeBron card. It's at the bank. I would definitely want to have.
See it, but you can't see it. I can show you a picture.
Right. I definitely like having like my Jim Brown. Like I work in here. This is a closet. I live in an apartment. This is a closet. I work from home right now, and I look over at my Jim Brown, my Jim Tomey every day. It makes me happy, while I'm working on my data, and I'm just like, these cards are awesome. And I look at Baby Yoda, and he says, "What's up?" And it just go on with my day. But yeah, if I had that much money in a card, my fiance is very encouraging with all this. She understands, like, hey, you show me the graphs, you show me the money. I don't care what you do. If you're doing well, you're doing well. But if I told her, like, hey, I just dropped $15,000 on a card, she would step back a little bit and be like, okay, I support you, but that's a little crazy. There's some things we can do with that. So yeah, right now in my life, I just can't do that.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And I like the honesty, and I think that's the most honest answer we're going to get to a question like that. So I appreciate that. Very good. So I think from that perspective, I've hit on a lot of stuff that I want to hit on. We could definitely go into a couple of other areas, but I don't want to just monopolize your time. And I think we've covered a lot of really good ground. And I think there's an opportunity to have further discussion. Is there anything that you kind of wanted to hit on, or that you're thinking about that you want to talk about a little bit?
First off, I can talk all night. I know LeBron's playing right now, but he's playing in a Lakers uniform.
I'm good with it. And if there's something specific you want to go with, I'm happy to. I've covered a lot of the stuff that I had on the notes, but I can go right in here and we can go in a couple of different directions.
No, he's in a Lakers uniform. He's not in a Cleveland uniform. So I don't. Yeah. I hope he loses. Like I don't care. Neither of those teams are Cleveland, so I'm not invested. Right. It's just like setting up this. Like I was like, hey, look, I got to see the Indians schedule. They're in the playoffs this year, and of course, they blew it. The first two games against the Yankees. Like, why do we have to play the Yankees? But yeah, no.
We rescheduled for that. If we rescheduled for that as well, we shifted it over a day just in case a game 3 had been available.
Just in case, and we were really close. I was up till 1:30 in the morning. They said it was the longest 9-inning game ever without the rain delays.
It was,
and man, it was tough. It was just going back and forth. Like, the Indians don't score runs, but every time they went down by 2, we got Lakers 61, Miami 49.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about baseball. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but he's giving the score. He's giving the score. You know.
Yeah, but the Bieber game, like I was so disappointed. Like I was like, man,
That was your shot. That one was the real opportunity, I think.
Yeah, we have I was like, we got the best pitcher in baseball, one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's gonna lock it down, and then boom, Judge hits a 2-0 shot on the fourth pitch. And I was like, okay, we're not gonna be able to score 2 runs, so this is over. But yeah, that second game was really fun to watch until the end, and it's just back and forth. And I looked at the salary of both teams, and the Yankees, they spend 2.5 times more on players than the Indians, and I was just like, how do you compete with that? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I just know the Dolans are really cheap, and it's just always going to be like that. Whenever we get a player like Lindor, and he's going to be a year away in the winter meetings, he's probably going to be traded. You know, it's just we're the 4A team for the major leagues, and maybe one year like 2016 we'll just get lucky and make it to the World Series. But yeah, that was still fun to watch. They were competing. So, but yeah, if you have more talking points, I'm here to talk all night. I don't know how long your interviews normally go for, but
it 100%, Jordan. It 100% depends on the guest. It depends on what we're talking about. It depends on their schedule, and it depends on what we have to talk about. I'm pretty open to whatever makes sense. So let's go on for a little bit then. Let's chat about a couple of things. So let me open this one up a little bit because this was more interesting to me. We can, if you're not too familiar with it, I can give us a couple of general points. One of the things that has kind of become a hot button topic is that whole fractionalized ownership thing. I use the Mantle card as an example because I've started to look at the collectible one. There's also Rally Road or something like that. The concept's simple enough. You take an asset, you buy it, or you do like an arrangement with a consignment. You come up with a price, what you think it's worth, the same way you value a company. You do an IPO, you sell shares. And then presumably the people own these shares and they can trade them like stocks, in this case on a specific platform. But there are certain rules and restrictions that make it kind of interesting. And it's a discussion that I'm going to have with a couple of folks. But just in general terms, have you heard a little bit about this? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I haven't heard of it before today. I saw Lamim James. He posted something. Someone trying to sell a $300,000 Trout card, and he was like, "What if I put $20 into it?" So of course I looked up like the percentage share that you would have of it, and it was like a 0.00667%. And I was thinking like, okay, $300,000 card. I don't know the details behind it. Do you just project the value as the years go on, and you can sell your share? Like if it goes up 10%, does your share go up 10%? And then you just sell that to someone else if they're willing to buy it?
So I can fill in a couple of the gaps. Again, it is a relatively new thing for what they're doing here, but I'll fill in a couple of the details and then we'll kind of talk through some of this general idea. I'm going to use the 53 Topps Mantle as an example because I've already dug into some of the legalese behind it. There's a bunch, they're filed with the SEC, so they actually have to do the paperwork and documentation. So I've had a chance to read it a little bit. So the short version is for that card, the original buyer bought it for about $1.15 million. That's what he paid for it. It was a PSA 10, 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle. Premier type card, a great card, not the 52, but an iconic card. And design wise, honestly, I think it's a better looking card. I like this card a little better than the 52. That's just me personally. So obviously I like the card. I own one, not in that grade, but I own one. But the thing is, so what they did is they did an arrangement with the person as a consignment. So they said, okay, so we're going to create this thing here as part of it. It's with the SEC and all that. I'm going to work off the assumption for the discussion that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So from a legal perspective, everything's been done above board. It's all good. It's going to be locked in a vault. But the concept is, okay, they came up with a price that the consignor and them agreed was what they felt the value was today based on comps. The comp they tried to use was 52 Topps Mantle. They tried to do some extrapolation. A very basic version of kind of what Card Ladder does with its predictive pricing. They say like, okay, if the 52 Topps is worth this card would be worth less, but how much less, what ratio, blah, blah, blah. What they came to was a valuation of $2.5 million is what they decided is currently worth. If it went for auction, I don't know if that would be the case, but that's what they decided upon. Based on that, they worked on a system where the owner retains 60% ownership of the card until the conclusion of the series, is what they call it, a series, and the shareholders will buy the other 40%. So it's 40,000 shares, $10 a share, or sorry, $25 a share. So the end result is they end up paying about $1 million towards it, and the remainder of it sits there. And then at the conclusion of 90 days, the shares can be traded freely amongst everybody, because it's a 90-day freeze period, which, number one, I'm not a fan of. You're locking up your money for 90 days. So just in general, I'm not a fan of that part, for sure. Second thing, though, technically you can trade it at whatever somebody wants to pay for it. My problem, so you own 1/40,000th of a share, and there's a cap on how much you can own of it. So my thought process is twofold, and this is where my head goes. And if you've got a different direction, I'll take it from you for sure. I'm thinking, how many shares would I have to buy, even with the cap in place? How many shares would I have to buy for this to be worthwhile to me? Because even if I buy a ton of shares, tens of thousands of dollars worth, I could buy a real copy of this in a decent, like, mid-tier grade. And if the value of this starts to go up, those mid or higher tier ones that are not a PSA 10 would also go up. And I would own this lock, stock, and barrel, as opposed to owning a share, which I then can only really make money in two scenarios. Scenario one, I find a investor, to take my share from me at a higher price. Or option two, the card actually ends up going up enough in value that the company sells it, and then the proceeds get distributed amongst the shareholders based on the ratios.
Man, that's a lot.
It is. It is.
I like to play devil's advocate and try to think beyond what the majority would be thinking, and try to think, okay, how is this a good thing? What would be fun about this? I'm trying to find it. So if I paid $25 and had a share of this card, what can I do with that? I could tell people I own it. Cool, I guess.
Yep.
And I would also look at what else could I buy for $25. Yeah. And and that I could have on my own. And you look at Luis Robert Topps rookie card. It's about $25. I'd rather have that in my hand, and I can sell whenever. So yeah, I tried to look at the positive side of it after I saw Lameem's thing with the Trout card, and I don't get it. I mean, I guess people do that with stocks, except you can day trade and you can sell whenever you want.
You can also get dividends from stocks. Like if you buy the right stocks, the company itself can make money, which in turn you would get a share of through a payout. So you can make money just by holding it. So that's an option that's not available here.
Yeah, so I don't see the positive other than just telling people, hey, I own this card, and just keep out the details. Just don't tell them you own a percentage of it. Just say I own this card.
Right. Except you can't show anybody.
Right. You just say I got it in a vault. I got it in a vault. So that's the only positive I can see from it. Otherwise, I would definitely want to spend my money elsewhere. I know I gave Luis Robert as an example. He was in Charlotte. I love the guy. So yeah, I would definitely rather have something like that where I know, has potential that I can sell whenever I want to. So I don't like the concept. I'm trying to like it. I don't see it.
Right. So I'll take it from two angles. So I wanted to throw it out at you. Obviously, I had to fill in a lot of details, and as we can know more, we'll see how it works out in practice. I use a specific example because I was able to go into some more depth with it, so that helped. But we'll have to see. But to your point, the only value I see from it as an investor, it sounds like a terrible idea to me. Like it sounds like I'm tying up my money in something that is really hard to get the money back from. There's very few scenarios where I could, because an example I use with a buddy of mine, I say, well, let's say the card doubles in value for the hell of it. Because the thing is, you came up with this $2.5 million valuation. The only person that I think really won here was the consignor, because they just generated $1 million from a card they paid $1,150,000 for right off the top, minus fees and whatever, but they still got most of their money back right away. And then at the end of the period, the company will buy the card for the remainder based on that, where they could sell Series 2 shares, Series 3 shares for the additional percentage points. I assume there'll be like a Series 2, Series 3. That'd be my guess. It's just me guessing. I don't know if that's their plan. Because once the company owns it, they own the other 60%. The shareholders have 40%. What's to stop you from selling pieces of the other 60% in a Series 2 or a Series 3? And then they get their money back. As a shareholder, maybe if the card does increase in value, which is a vintage card, a super high-end one, it could increase in value. But if it goes up 50%, your $25 share becomes a $37.50 share. So like, congratulations. But I don't feel like, again, I'm giving you the best case scenario. I'm saying it went up by a lot. I'm saying you did well. You did good. But you tied it up for a minimum of 90 days, minimum. And if it sells for double the original price, you turned it into $50. However long that took to happen.
Right, which it would take a while. And in the market we're in, where you can buy a card, have it by your side, and it can 10x in the next day, I definitely wouldn't want to have my money tied up in something like that, where your money's locked up every 90 days, especially with if the market just died off, and maybe I could throw $100 into that and just try to grab that back later, 10 years from now. Maybe, I mean, even that doesn't sound fun. So yeah. I'm trying to look for a positive. I don't see it. For an
investor, I don't see it. I really tried to give it some thought. And like I said, I'm going to talk to some other folks because I want to get their perspective too. And collectively, we'll try to come up with something. We'll try to think it through collectively, and we'll see if we can come up with something. The value I see, if you want to call it that, is the novelty of owning a share in a premium high-end vintage card. But it's much the same way, and I'll use the Packers as an example, when they do their share sales. But the difference is you can say legally you own a piece of the Green Bay Packers, which would be legally true. And you do get voting rights, and they have like an annual event that you can show up a shareholder meeting and you have votes on some small stuff or whatever. But technically it's true. So as a novelty, that's kind of cool. Plus you get the certificate, you can frame it and whatever. It's not meant to be it's not meant to make money. It's meant to be like, as a super fan, this is like you showing that you're a super fan of your team by owning a share in it and being a part owner. So that's a novelty. The other novelty I can think of is where you can buy an acre on the moon, Jordan, for like $60. You can buy an acre on the moon. You get a certificate that says you have an acre on the moon. You can become a lord in Scotland for like $50, and you can be Lord Jordan. So that's kind of cool, and you get a certificate for that. I feel like that's a better use of $50. Jordan, is what I'm trying to say. Becoming a lord, that'd be kind of sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my thought before you talked about the Packers thing was like, maybe if they sent like a really cool like reprint of it and that said that I owned like this percentage of it, maybe I could show that off and have that to hold on to. That would be a novelty. That would be cool. But it sounds like they're not even doing anything like that.
I don't believe, as far as I know, they may try to do that down the road. As far as I know, you get nothing other than a virtual certificate that basically is in the app. So I was like, tangibly, it's like, I just gave you my money. And it's like, I'm not saying it couldn't work. I'm not saying you couldn't make money out, but I just don't know if you'd make enough to make it worth, even you lose the novelty part, because I feel like if you get a certificate or something, again, being a lord would be kind of fun. You could get in on that pretty cheap and it would be kind of funny. So, and it's legal. Technically you would own a square foot of Scotland if you're a lord, by the way.
So, right, that just reminds me of like the Cavaliers games. They would flash to Usher, and it would be like a part owner, and I would look up his ownership percentage, and it was like less than 0.5%. It's just like, okay, well, I guess he can go around and say he owns part of a NBA basketball team, so that's cool for him. Same with like Jay-Z, like he's a part owner of the Nets, I think. So I don't know what his percentage, but he could just say I'm part owner. So yeah, I guess. Maybe that's something people like. None of my friends would care if I told them I owned part of a card. My fiance wouldn't care. It's not something I would post on Instagram. Hey guys, I own this. Like it's no.
But could you imagine the picture if you took a picture, a high-res picture of the card, and shrunk down a very small, put it all like in black and white, and had like one little color sliver, and it's like, that's my piece.
Right. Like if I have if I can go like visit it at the vault and like take a picture with it, like let me hold it and I can take a
Yeah,
picture with it and display
yeah,
that like with all the other Grail Instagram accounts like, hey guys, I own this. Like,
yeah,
maybe that would be worth $25, but
yeah.
yeah, just knowing that it's locked away in darkness and I own a part of it, like that's not enough for me.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see who
No,
that would
that
be appealing for. But
I
besides
struggle. I've struggled with it. I've struggled with it. I've tried to rack my imagination right now. Like I said, I'm going to talk to some other hobbyists. I will keep thinking. I'm sure someone who's really creative can come up with something. I've struggled to come up with something. It's a novel concept, but at the same time, it's not like buying assets and pooling your money for something like that. It's not like this is new. It's been done, but I guess it's a weird decision when you're already. I think my underlying problem, if I strip it all away, my underlying problem is this: I'm buying in based on an evaluation that you made, where you just came up with the number based on a comp. If I bought a share at the original price, where I actually get a return based on a potential sale down the road, where maybe it does 3 or 4x, that might be kind of cool. But I'm already got an inflated price, so I'm already buying in at 2.5 million when technically the card is never sold for 2.5 million. So
right, yeah.
I'm actually buying high.
Yeah, it
I
would definitely make more sense if the owner bought it for 1.5 and then sold 40% of that off,
mhm,
to recoup some of their money. That would make more sense.
yeah,
But yeah, just the predicted value, if you will, yeah,
yeah,
buying at that, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah, because you've already baked in the potential gain.
Right.
Let's say they were right and they went and put it up for sale and it sold for 2.5 million. Here's your $25 back, Jordan. Minus
Right.
fees. Minus fees.
There's
So
fees
it's
to it.
like,
Oh man.
well, think of the sale, right? The 2.5 million wouldn't
Right.
actually be 2.5.
Right. Yeah.
It would
So
be at an
yeah.
auction, so it'd be like 2.35. So you get like 23.50 back on your $25.
Yeah. I def I don't like it. I don't like the concept. I maybe like if I get like friends later on who are like big and they want like a big card and we all have a lot of money and we want to
Mhm,
buy a percentage share and actually
mhm,
have the card for all of us to
mhm.
pass around and show off. That's different. But this having just one person own the majority 60% and then the rest of the people just say that they own part of it. It's just a dumb concept. I don't like it.
Say what you really feel, though, Jordan. Like I feel like you're holding back. I feel like you're holding. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, but I wanted to run it by you, just kind of as a general, give you a couple of parameters with it. Like I said, we will see what it plays out. I struggle to see the real value behind it, aside from the novelty. If you're really key on the novelty, fine, I guess. But I think like as an investment, I don't see it. Like I don't see a real path to victory here, where you're tying up your money. And I joked with one of my buddies as I said, okay, let's say I invested a lot. Let's say I invested 50 grand in it. My buddy is like a part-time dealer. He does a lot of stuff. If I just blindly gave you $50,000 and I said, make me some money, could you? And he's like, of course. He goes, yeah, man, I'll
Yeah.
buy some stuff. I'll flip it and I'll get you back. I'll get you back a profit and I'll take a cut and we'll be good. And I go, yeah, I kind of figured that. And I go, could you do it within 90 days? I go, probably, yeah. If you press me and said, I got to really grind down and do it, yeah, I could turn you about profit in 90 days. So you're saying I wouldn't have to lock it in with you for 90 days without doing anything? No.
Now, now we're talking about this one card, the vintage card,
Mhm.
that the value would progress slowly. Now,
In
if
theory,
it was
yeah.
like a big, like Luka Doncic card, maybe
They've
I'll
got
put
a
in.
Steph Curry RPA as one of their other ones.
Yeah, so cards where guys are still playing and
Mhm.
the percentage and potential the percentages going up higher more quickly,
Mhm.
then yeah, maybe it's something to consider. But a vintage card where the percentage is going to slowly increase, um, and you're looking at just like small percentages. Yeah, I don't see it, but definitely with bigger cards for guys who are still playing, there could be some good deals out there,
Mhm.
maybe. But
Now,
but
one other
overall,
factor,
it's something I'd
one
stay
other
away.
factor to your point, one other factor to your point is also, let's use the Steph Curry RPA. Is there a possibility that could go up again if the Warriors come back, become like a championship caliber team again, and they win? Totally. That's totally within the realm of possibility. But it goes back to that valuation though. Like whatever the market value is today, whatever they bought it for, if they put a valuation that already takes into account some future gain, you're already pricing yourself at a higher price. It's like you're overpaying for the card right off the bat.
Right. That's where I would look into a guy like Luca, who's just played his second year, who has a lot longer to go, who, could just surpass that, and should surpass whatever his predicted value would be. Like if it was a logo man or something like that, maybe having a percentage of that would be worth it. But Steph Curry, who's been in the league, he's in his 30s, a guy like that, maybe stay away from. But definitely the younger guys, if you wanted to prospect into it, could be worth it. But overall, if there's nothing like that, then I would stay away from it.
That's fair enough. So all in all, I guess we can take away. It's very subtle. I have to read between the lines with you, but I'm taking away. Not a fan. Not a fan of the concept.
No comment. I haven't No, I'm not a fan. No, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty blunt with my opinion. I'm starting to learn that as someone who's on YouTube, like maybe I should tone it down a little bit, because in the beginning, like I wanted to just come out and just start saying like other YouTubers names, and like I don't like this guy, he's an idiot. This guy, he's an idiot. And I tried to get Andy to do it too, like, hey, you got to drop names, like you got to just, if you see a guy's an idiot, just play his clip and just laugh at him or something. But we've taken a different approach to that. Definitely matured as we've made more videos. And because if you're just a new YouTuber, this is your second video and you're just calling out guys, people might not, they may already know that guy's not too smart or have a different opinion. But definitely getting better, not being so blunt. But you're getting the real me right now on the live chat.
See, the goal is being achieved. This is what I want, Jordan. This is what I want. Yeah, I laugh about it because I tend not to hold back any punches, but at the same time I pick my targets with strategy. But the thing is, there is a validity to it. At this point, I could just shout people out most of the time. And this is maybe just me, and this is just my take on it. To a certain point, if someone asks me for advice, then I'll be perfectly clear. Steer clear of this, steer clear of this, steer clear of this. Here's why. But in another side of me is like, you know what? I kind of want you to make some mistakes. If you're going to make a mistake and it costs you some money, I think it's a valuable lesson. I think there's some value to you. This isn't meant to lord it over anybody, but it's like, I have been collecting for 30 years. And I've dealt with a lot of this stuff in different ways and whatever. It's like, I made mistakes and then I learned from those mistakes. I adapted, I adjusted. And now at this point, it's like, I'll observe everything with a healthy skepticism. I'm not going to just knock something because it's new. That's why I took the time to go read into this thing. I go, is there some merit here? Can I find something? I don't see it, because even if it's all legit, everything works the way it's supposed to, I still think there's better uses of the money. I feel like you could use it in a better spot and get a better return. So I'm not saying it's a terrible idea. I'm just saying it's not the most efficient. So I'm not seeing it as being a good answer for those people. But when it comes to the bad actors and the bad data, it's hard, because your temptation is to be like, look, all right, I'm just going to read off some names and I'm going to tell you what's wrong with every one of their videos. But then I'm like, how many videos would I have to dedicate to this just to make this work? I'd spend all day on it. It would be ridiculous.
Right. And I told Andy, he's still there. He just made a comment. But yeah, I told Andy, like, hey, look, you have to imagine these new people, they see your channel, you're a sports card investigator. And you've made some videos kind of pointing out people, but you never said anyone's names. Us who have watched all these guys, we know kind of who he's talking about. But if I'm someone brand new and I really want to know who to go to, who's bad and who's giving bad advice or who's giving good advice, that video is not good enough for me. So yeah, I feel like someone does need to be out there who says, this is my opinion on this guy. I feel like he's not giving good advice, and you maybe give some data to back it up, and stuff like that. So if I am someone new who wants to learn the right way, I know where to stay away from, based off of other people's opinions. So I do think there is a crowd for that who really want to know. But you say, you know, some people just need to learn. You know, you go and watch a guy's channel if he's, you know, hyping up Marvin Bagley, and you don't feel like doing the research on what he just told you, and you go and buy it and you lose money on it. You know, that's your fault. So I mean,
there is a value in that type of lesson where it's like, hey man, look, I'm not trying to discourage you from the hobby. And I want to make this abundantly clear. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from the hobby. Part of the conversation we had is that I got a better sense of the way you collect, the what makes you interested, what you enjoy. And my answer was, cool, sounds good. It's working for you. Great. Keep doing it. I encourage you. But it's because I prefer to be encouraging that way. But at the same time, it's like, look, if you're too lazy to do the work, that's the one area where I struggle with it. If you don't know, you don't know. I'm not going to punish you for not knowing. And if you want to ask a million questions, you know, that's going to get annoying, but I can accept that because at least you're trying to learn. I'm cool with that. But if you don't ask any questions and then you just follow advice blindly and you get burned, well, then go to the hospital, get some bandages, you know, get some balm on there. And when you're ready to come back, you know, give it a go. But you're going to learn. And if you throw a lot of money into it, well, then whose fault is that? I can't save everybody from themselves. Some people are going to have to learn the hard way.
Right. I mean, it's dangerous, and there's only so much I can do, only so much you can do, and guys like Andy. But we're just trying to help the guys who could be saved from making those type of mistakes. I feel like if someone has you know, some logic to them, they're not going to watch a video and just go drop $2,000 because the guy said, hey, go buy this. They're going to start doing some research, even if they're not told to. They don't need to hear from me or Andy. Maybe some guys need to know how to do that, or some good ways to do that.
Sure.
You know, my system's not perfected. You know, I'll still, you know, listen to other people. I don't watch too much of the content out there now. But I do like, you know, talking to people like Brett and other guys on Instagram to see, you know, what's worked for them and, you know, what hasn't worked for them, so I can apply that to my strategy. And that's, you know, that's a big thing for people coming into the hobby. Reach out to me, or reach out to Carlos or Andy. Just ask us questions.
Yeah.
I do get some questions sometimes where people will just be like, hey, what do you think about this guy? And if I do give my opinion on them and they disagree with it, they'll tell me I'm wrong. And I'm just like, well, why did you even ask me? So there's all kinds of, I see you have a question. Horse race. Yeah.
He's pointing out as an example of kind of the same type of thing. Pundits are usually the worst handicappers who, if they pick your horse, is a good bet, you know, they lose. And that happens a lot. Like in this genre, there's a lot of the people that are spending the most time giving you picks are not actually very good at making picks. It's like, or they pick it after, like it's lazy. You're getting it long after.
This card's hot. Buy this one. It's like, no, don't buy. Like there's a general rule with stocks. It's just buy the dips, sell the peaks. Like that's common. But if someone doesn't understand that, they're buying the peaks and they're selling the dips because they're panicking. So it's scary for the market, and people are losing money. And I know you're saying it's a good lesson for them. I just don't want it to be so bad of a lesson for them to where they're like, screw this isn't fun, I'm gonna, you know, go take my money elsewhere. You know, maybe that's a good thing, you know, for the long term, but overall, it's good to have money circulating in the hobby. I know some people are grumpy about it because now you can't find retail on shelves where like 2018 Prism, you know, I could just walk up to Walmart and just, you know, pick one up if I wanted to, before Luca blew up. But yeah, people are getting really upset about it. I talked to my local card shop owner and asked him about the hobby box prices, and he says he gets it from a dealer who gets it, or he gets it from a distributor who gets it from another, you know, gets it from Panini. So he's paying these inflated prices. So he's making the same amount of money that he would have made before, and now people are kind of shying away from it. So it's hurting local card shops, and I try to do my best to, you know, invest in the local card shops to keep them around, because I grew up with those and they were fun to go to, and I hope to take my kids there, you know, in the future when I have them. And it's, I want them to have that experience, and not the experience to where, you know, their dad can't buy them a hobby box, or we can't sort through cards looking for Cleveland players because they're too expensive. So, I mean, Cleveland players aren't going to be too expensive, but other players being too expensive and stuff like that. It's just it's all because of these new people in the hobby, but it's still a good thing that it's being noticed. And I know like ESPN had an article on it today, and it's good that this money's circulating around. And I would hate for all this to tank, and then it would scare people away in the future. I don't think there would be another huge crowd surging in. It would be good if this just became level and sustainable, and not this just like reactionary market that we're seeing, which I think we might be there. They might be getting smarter. No.
Oh, Jordan. Poor Jordan. So let me reply to some of the points you're making, because I'm letting you talk, not because I don't want to interject, but I want to kind of hear kind of your thought process and follow the train a little bit. And then I can kind of comment on some of the pieces along some of the stations along the way. I think there's some merit to what you're saying. The only counter, I guess, that I could offer is that my collecting started right at I started collecting in 1990. So like I said, literally 30 years. And that was when the peak had passed, but there was still some momentum. Like the inertia wasn't done yet. You were still moving. And at that time you had what was perceived as a big crash over the next couple of years, where like all that overproduction, like wrecked everything, right? The 91 cards aren't worth a lot. The 92 cards, most of them aren't worth a lot, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is that I think is interesting, and that was the biggest overproduction era ever up until ever, because the numbers that we're talking about in production are way, 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 they dwarf what we're talking about today. But what I think is interesting, and we'll do this one here. So Paul is kind of inclined with what your agreement, and I totally follow his point. What I think is interesting, and I'm just posing this to you guys. This is a conversation, and it's an ongoing thing. And as we get more data points, we'll look into it and we'll keep talking. Because now that I know you a little bit better, I'm happy to keep engaging in conversation with you, with Andy, with everybody, because I want to get opinions and I want to understand kind of where your heads are at. But what I think is interesting is that back then there were a lot of folks that thought the same thing. And here's the funny thing: the baseball strike happened in '94, and presumably that was going to be the end of everything. Topps came out with a set in 93. They came out with a set in 94. They came out with a truncated set in 95 because they had less game. They came out with a set in 96. They came out with a set in 97, 98, 99, 2000. It never stopped. Production adjusted according to what the market dictated. They had to cut back production. They had to introduce more numbered cards, and they kept adapting to it. Right now, hobby prices are going up because the manufacturer's looking at it and going like, look, if you suckers are going to keep paying for this, and you're going to keep paying inflated rates, we need to get a cut. The secondary market doesn't help me, the manufacturer, at all. I'm still charging the wholesaler the same price, and they're bumping it up, and then the dealer has to bump it up, and everybody's making money down the line. I'm still making the same amount as before, whether I sell out or not. So at the moment, it's all selling out anyway. Well, I may as well bump up the price. And that's what happened with Panini. And like, I want to say Mosaic football was like $600 or $700 a box, something crazy. But that's like for Mosaic product. Like, in basketball, that wasn't a big deal until basically this year.
Right.
And for football, it was new. It was a new product that it's like, what's in Mosaic to make it worth $600 or $700 a box? Almost nothing. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you talk about value, you open the box and you're about to lose almost no matter what happens. You've lost unless you happen to pull the like perfect card for that moment. And then you're okay. And I can look back, even to your point from earlier, I look back not that far. I opened boxes of 2018 Prism, and I pulled like some Josh Allens. Like, I didn't pull the Lamars. I didn't pull anything. I didn't even pull a Baker back then, which would have been a good card, or a Sam Darnold. Nothing of that sort. But the box was going for $1,700. I kind of wish I kept the box. The sealed box was worth something.
Yeah.
And I think I bought it in my card shop there, like a comic book store. I think I paid like $140. I think they were clearing it out.
Yeah, so I remember sitting in my economics class and learning about equilibrium and with supply and demand and the equilibrium price. And you know, you have your supply and you have your demand and you have your price. That's the equilibrium. So what I saw with the junk wax era, I know I wasn't there, but what I've read with the junk wax era was, you know, the supply,
Yeah.
the,
Go ahead. Keep
the,
going.
the demand was there, was high, so they increased supply, which lowered the equilibrium. So people were paying, you know, the same amount, paying less, because the supply was high. So when people ask me, are we in another junk wax era? I tell them no, because there's two ways to handle high demand. You can increase the supply, or you can increase the price. So with demand going up and supply being where it's at, Panini has decided to increase the price, which would put that equilibrium where it is, and people are still paying it. So they may be still charging below the equilibrium. They don't know yet, because they keep doing these Dutch auctions, and you know, they're selling for so much. And as long as people are paying those prices, that's where it's going to be. They would be stupid to increase the supply, because that would lower the price. There would be more out there on eBay and people would be paying less for it. So no, we're not near another junk wax era. I think I looked up the numbers of the junk wax era. There was like 4 million of each copy. There was some cards
for sure.
Yeah, it was stupid high. And like, I don't think we're near that. And I think Panini's doing a good job of making different products and giving artificial scarcity with parallels and stuff like that. And, you know, there's autograph cards now and jersey cards, which weren't there in the 90s. I don't know if you could pull an autograph card in the 90s.
With a handful of sets in the early 90s, I would say Upper Deck had a couple of autograph inserts, but very, very rare stuff.
Yeah,
I'll quickly respond to Paul here for really quick. So Paul, I think, see, the thing is right now, what Jordan is saying, I'm in alignment with, because, and I summarize it in one statement. And this is the statement: the laws of economics have not been violated. That's basically how I explain this whole section. I say, yes, you may not like the price. Panini is not trying to price in a future gain. They're trying to price in the current gain, because they're seeing that they're selling out of everything. So clearly the price by economic standards is too low. So Panini has to be like, okay, how do we adapt? Because clearly we're missing out. The alternative, to Jordan's point, is to print more stuff. But the same collectors who complain about the price of the stuff would then cry bloody murder if they made more boxes of what becomes cheaper product and dilutes the product. Because if you keep the inserts at the same production numbers, you have to spread them out more. So the good news is you can find retail product. The bad news is you're going to open full blaster boxes of base. If you're cool with that, then we're good to go. But you're probably not cool with that, because then all of a sudden your base is worthless and your kids don't want it, even though they should be happy that now they have product, right? That's what's supposed to happen.
Right. That's what I tell people. I tell them, be scared. Be scared when the prices go down. Be scared when the retail is back on shelves, because supply has gone up. If it becomes affordable to everyone, then that's when you should worry about a possible junk wax era. Not right now. Not with what we're seeing with the way Panini's handling it.
Yeah. Now the question, so to your point, and I appreciate that you hit on the supply demand curve. I was like, it takes me back to first year university. It makes me happy. I did a video where I literally pulled out my economics textbook and I opened it and I'm like, I'm going to read you this. I did that in one of my videos. I had so much fun, but that's like, I was serious. I was like, guys, the laws of economics have not been violated. Like, I'm going to go as far as to read this from the textbook. I'll show you. Like, it's like, I haven't been in that book was from, that's an 18-year-old textbook from my university days. It's like, guys, it was true back then. It was true before then. It is still true now. I promise you. It still is.
Nothing changed.
Nothing has changed. And we were studying it back then and making those equilibrium. We were doing those charts. I made more of them than I care to remember. But I promise the laws of the concept remains the same. But to your point, though, we have this push and pull. And I feel bad because my advice is almost to tell hobbyists not to be hobbyists. Where I'm like, guys, but the problem is you're helping to feed the beast. You're right. The shoe flippers are here. They're buying up a bunch of stuff. But when they go on eBay and they sell the blaster for 5 times what it costs at Walmart and you buy it, how do you think that's going to discourage them from going out next time and buying everything from Walmart and then selling it to you for 5 times the blaster price? We could have the price at the current supply level, except the demand has increased because it's like the Project 2020 thing. the demand did increase, but the demand increased with less hands. It wasn't 99,000 people buying the short Griffey. If it had been, it would have been fine. It was a couple of hundred people buying thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, which bumped up that rate. The collectors that wanted it still got it. But the problem was these other people that are only needed one or two, bought 500. I know for a fact some people bought over 1,000 of that short Griffey, single individuals. So it's like, well, then what do you want me to do for you? Like, what? Like, I can't help you. There's nothing that can be done. Like, this is your own fault. I can't help you with this.
Man, I have one of them.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna hold on to it for the story of it. But 1,000.
I bought one on eBay after the fact from a Canadian seller. I was supporting local, but I bought it for a fraction of what they paid for it originally because it's $20 for the one card in American dollars. So add 30% to it. So it probably cost him $26, $27 plus shipping to get it or sent over. I bought it for less than 10 Canadian. So think about $7 US. He took a bath. I feel bad for him, but I wanted it for the novelty. So I have one as a novelty and I bought it for a fraction. For me, that's okay. I don't care if it's worth anything. I bought it as a novelty. But for the people that bought abundance thinking they were going to get rich off it, man, I hope you can use it for installation. Like maybe there are some options, like you can melt down the plastic, build a statue, make some art. I don't know.
Yeah, just use the cases. Just throw all those short Griffies away.
The cases are worth something now. So maybe the case is where the value is.
Yeah, that's rough. I feel bad for those people. But I mean, they typed in 1,000, they bought them. So,
but that goes back to what I was saying though earlier. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, there are people that I will legitimately feel bad for if the market does crash. But there are other people who bought 1,000 short Griffies where I'm like, but what did you expect? Like, I don't know what to say to you. I can't feel bad for you. How am I supposed to? What possessed you to think this was a good idea and you were the only one who's going to do this?
Right. And I think the same thing when people were talking about, hey, this card's got a low pop. And so I think it's more valuable than another card with a high pop. But really, the print run was the same for them. So they'll buy all these raw cards of the low pop, send them in for grading. It's like you're lowering the value of your perceived value of what you thought it was. So that's why I don't go off just pop reports, even though some people preach off of it, because you don't know the actual quantity that was produced for that card. I know some people do some math on it and come up with a general number and stuff like that. But yeah, I know I just transferred over to pop reports and stuff like that. But
that's fine.
I don't agree.
We can shift with that. What I will say, and I like Paul's comment because he was referencing the 89 Upper Deck Griffey, the historical card that was printed in great abundance back in the day. So it is ironic. What I was going to say was, I like your point about pop reports. I think that's valid. Where I think this is where I kind of lean towards, like, try to use your maybe if I was going to summarize my theme of the channel the last couple of months, where I do like talking head videos where I'm trying to talk through a concept with everybody. The overarching concept is like, look, listen to what I say, don't listen to what I say. Agree with what I say, don't agree with what I say. If you take away one thing from everything I'm talking about on the channel, on live streams, on everything, one thing, use your brain. Like, I don't care what else you do. If you use your brain and you're using it consistently and try to keep using it, you're going to figure some of this stuff out eventually, even if you don't want to listen to me, even if you don't want to listen to Andy, even if you don't want to listen to Jordan, other people. If you use your brain and use it correctly for long enough, eventually the eureka moment will come. But I want you to use it. Just keep using it until eventually it'll come to you. To the pop report point, though, the only thing you can really do, I don't like cards that are unlimited. They're not really unlimited, but you don't know what the real quantity is. So it's hard. If you want to have some fun, and this is, again, for fun, as a strictly investment, maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. I'm not advocating as a strategy. Where I like, and this is part of my collection, but I can have some fun with it. So this is a Juan Soto rookie, and this is the Aqua version. That's numbered to 299. Even if every single one of them was graded as 299, you can't have more than 299. Right. Otherwise, we have a bigger problem. But as long as the manufacturer has in fact printed 299 of these, I know how many are out there. No more, no less. How many are graded then is a percentage of the overall print run, which is stated on the card itself. So you have a basis of at least being able to, all right, is it rare or not? I don't know. But at least you can try to figure it out based on that, because at least you got a number to go off of. So what do you think about like a numbered card, at least where you've got some kind of a limit that's quantifiable? Is at least if 90% of the population is graded and you know what the print run actually is, then maybe you can make some kind of an assessment.
Yeah. I'm definitely referring to just base cards as a whole. When people are comparing
Yep.
base cards, they're looking at the pop reports and saying, "Oh, this one should be more valuable because it's a lower pop."
Correct.
Like you, the other base card has a higher pop because more people sent that in. Like if this other one becomes a higher demand, then that pop could equal it, and it could reach it. So when people are talking about base cards, I don't believe in. I mean, the pop reports do tell somewhat of a story. If there is
It's a data point
of a PSA 10, then yeah, that's off putting. But just using that as your like go-to, which I've seen some content creators use that, like, hey, I looked at the pop report, this is low, and it's a base card, and I'm sitting there thinking like it's low because no one sent it in. Like no one felt like it needed to be there. So yeah, that's definitely with the demand and just base cards. When you have a serial number on there and the quantity, then yeah, that's a different story. Then you could look at the pop report to see how many of those gemmed and stuff like that. But I did want to ask you about your opinion on the grading companies and these price changes, because a lot of people are getting really upset about it. And I'm talking to Andy about it, or just texting him, and like I'm not upset about it. I'm thinking I'm putting myself in PSA's shoes, and I'm thinking, all right, the demand for my product has skyrocketed, and people want me to keep it at the same price. Like, no way. Simple economics, demand increases. I'm going to increase the price until you stop paying it. So just increasing it by a few dollars per card, that seems fine to me. It seems fair because, if I send in a card that's worth $10, I get it graded for the 15 that it's at now, and it increases by $20. That was worth it to me. That was worth it by $5. So yeah, I'm not upset about these price increases, but a lot of people are getting really upset about it, saying they're taking advantage of the customers. And I know they're trying to, get more staff and stuff like that to get all this backlog, but the pricing in general, I see their side of it more than I see the hobby getting upset about it. But I want to know your opinion on it.
Sure. I love the industrialist angle you take. So here's the thing. I'm good with it from that perspective, but I'm good with it from another angle too. I also think they're looking at it and going like, look, it takes almost the same amount of time so here, Andy is saying this. I'm not sure what context he's saying it, but what I'm about to say is agreeing with this statement, with these two words. So what happens is, in reality, there's so many of these bulk submitters now. It has become a thing. We'll name a couple of names. Good old PSA Investor. His name is PSA Investor. Like his name is literally PSA Investor.
Okay.
Like, an advocate for obviously the model of buying relatively cheap cards and trying to increase their value through grading, which I have no moral opposition to. From a capitalist standpoint, I don't care. It's fine. I'm good with it. But in the same vein, PSA's got to look at like, okay, look, we make more money. We make a lot of money on these bulk things, but they take so much time. They take so much manpower. They require so many cases. Shipping it out is a pain. These big bulk lots. If we increase the price and they still want to pay it, cool. But if we reduce it a little bit, we actually have a little bit of a shot of reducing the backlog, so we get less crying about it, and then we can go back to making our money. So it's like they need to do it in a way where it isn't them just saying like, yeah, we're just going to close the door on this. We'll be like, no, we'll increase the price so that at least we make you think twice about it, where you're sending the $5 base card hoping they turn into a $50 card. If we can try to like give you a little bit of hesitation, it also helps us reduce the volumes a little bit. Even if it's just a couple percentage points, it could be huge if enough people get at least delayed. Maybe they're still going to submit it, but maybe they'll wait a little bit longer before they go and pull the trigger on 1,000 card submission or something crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And that's where I have Excel spreadsheets. I play with Excel just even on the weekends and the formulas. That's where I have spreadsheets where I can put in one card, put in a pop report to see how the card grades, because different cards, they grade differently. Even if it's from the same set, some they just grade differently. So I'll take the percentages that they grade by and see if it's worth sending in. Because the thought is, someone sent it in thinking it was going to gem. I would hope. I know some get like 4s and 5s, and I mean that's more like vintage. But I've sent in one, and I thought it looked good, and I got a 5, a Wander Franco. I was like, well, what in the world? But yeah, I'd have spreadsheets that'll tell me, is this worth sending in? And now with the price increase, I am a little bit more hesitant. Like, is it worth that extra few dollars? And it will have me put some cards, away, hold on to for longer. But overall, it's not something that makes me, upset and want to like rebel against PSA, which that's what I'm saying. I'm seeing a lot of people get, just upset with PSA, like they're taking advantage of us. I want to go to these. I'm going to go to these other grading companies, even though I'm going to make less money if it gets the same grade that PSA would give me, which I see PSA side of it, and it's increased demand. If I have a product and more people want it, I'm going to increase the price until you don't want it anymore. So, I'm not upset with it.
So right here, what Andy is saying is kind of in line with what I'm getting at. So by making that the thing, it is creating that hesitation move. That's exactly the thing that I'm talking about. They're not worried about the big fish. If you've got a Mike Trout Superfractor type card and you want to make your money and certify it, you'll pay the freight, because for you didn't notice the difference. The difference is at the low end. At the high end, you're going to have to pay a lot of money anyway, and potentially make a lot of money. So you got to pay money to make money. So for you, it has no impact on you. Where it's going to be interesting and kind of playing into that, the people that want to do those flips, they're going to have to do the hesitation move. PSA investor may become SGC investor by the end of the week. We'll see what happens. But the thing is that for the same vein, the same people that are complaining are trying to have it both ways, because I know some of them are probably PSA set registry members. I like the set registry. It's a neat concept. It's fun, but it's like, it's supposed to be a supplement to your collecting. It's not supposed to be the only thing you're doing. And if that's the reason why you're doing it and you have to put in a PSA slab to be happy, well, then you're going to have to eat the additional cost. If you're doing it for the flipping, well, then I sort of get your problem, but at the same time, it's like they can make the price whatever they want. You can choose to pay it or not. The set registry is you're doing this to yourself. Like, it's not even necessary. It's just so that you can brag that you've got the finest known set of this, or this player, or this set, or whatever the case is going to be. Usually it's like vintage and stuff like that. It depends. But it's just so that you can brag. If the card is a pristine card and it's a pristine card, whether it's in the holder or not, it's a pristine card. If you're not planning to flip it, hang on to it in the collection. Put it in a one touch. Put it in a screw down. Whatever you want.
Right, and that's where what Andy was showing. They took the economy grading away. I think they said that they were backlogged on that, and they were going to bring it back once they got caught up on it. But that's where the declared value comes into play. And I know the definition's a little fuzzy. Their definition is, what value do you think it'll be after it's graded? I kind of read it as, what do I think the value is of it, right now as raw, but they say after it's graded. So I could look at this Jaren Jackson Jr. and say, well, I think this is a 7. So I think the declared value is it's raw 10. So declared value is 5, and that's under the 99. So that declared value, I don't think they're really looking at the declared value unless it's just like really obvious. Because I think a PSA investor, he said that he'll put in $500 cards, and they've never sent him or extra charged him on it or anything like that. So yeah, I don't think that taking away the economies, I think it's going to force more people to slide some more valuable cards into their bulk gradings. I don't think it's going to change too much.
Yeah, I think it's going to leave you in a position. So let's put it this way: it's going to put you in a position where, you're less inclined to send in, I'll use the cards you got in the background. You're less inclined to send in the Jim Tomei. It has sentimental value for you, but if it wasn't already graded, you might not want to send it in. The Jim Brown rookie, it's still you still might want to send it in because there's some value to that regardless. So the Jim Brown stays in the order. The Jim Tomei might stay in a one touch or a screw down or a top loader. Decisions like that will get made.
Yeah, I personally would still send the Tomei.
And no matter the cost. Right,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
But you get kind of my point. Like you're going to have to make those defining lines. Like for me, the Jim Brown is valid anyway, and it would be unaffected by something like this because it is an iconic card of an iconic player. So if I want to have it that way, it's hey. So it works out. Give me 1 second here. Card collector, how you doing? Brian, how's it going? And yeah, and exactly here, how long you want and can wait. And that's true. It really comes down to PSA is kind of testing people's patience a little bit. They're kind of pushing the boundary. They want to see how far they can push you because they have a million card backlog. So from their perspective, it's like, okay, look, we got to get through this million card backlog no matter what. And there's more coming in every day. We either make more money while we're doing this or we slow you down a little bit. If it turns out there's a lot of pushback and they get a ton of slowdown, they can bring back economy. But if their numbers don't go down a lot, maybe economy will or won't come back, or maybe it'll be a little bit more in the future. Kind of depends.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It makes complete sense. They have their work, already in their warehouse, for the next, few months. It doesn't really, why not charge extra for that, extra work that's going to come in, 4 months later. So yeah. And yeah, my last bulk shipment, it took about 8 months for me to get it. They came in right after the NBA cards were sliding. So I got my Lucas and my trays that I had got graded after they had, they hit that peak and they were dropping. So I went ahead and, I just liquidated, I didn't really care. I was making money off of it either way, but yeah, I did have to be very patient. And at that time it was just like, no matter what I send in, the cards are going to increase in value because the market was just going up. But now it's a little scary because I don't know where the market's going. I have a bunch of cards that I'm just sitting on right here. And I'm like, do I send it in now where the market could panic and just sell everything off, or the market could explode again and these could continue to go up? Maybe the next NBA season, people are going to get hyped up for it. And, it's just going to be like it was last season. Who knows? But it's definitely a little iffy period right now. And them raising the prices makes me sit back and a little iffy on it. But I'm not upset with them and what they're doing. I did want to say what's up to the card collector. That's one of my friends. I had him for an interview.
Yep.
He's a cool kid.
Yep. No, for sure. That's why I want to kind of, I want to incorporate some of these guys in there. And of course, our frequent commenter. So 9 cards for Express and got it in 9 days. That makes sense to me. But the second sentence though is the valid one, Andy, and you're hitting the nail on the head here. It's making you decide what cards are worth doing it and what aren't. If you still make that decision and you discern it, this probably won't affect you that much. If you're the person though, who just literally try, like, what junk can I take out of a big sack and send it all to PSA, all of it. And it's like, okay, well, that was working for a while. And now PSA is saying like, look, man, do a little bit of culling before you decide what to send us. Maybe send us your best 20 or 30 that you really want to send right now, as opposed to sending us 400 or 500. Maybe do a little bit of decision-making.
Right. And that's where with my analytics, like I'm looking at every penny, every dollar that'll give you like an extra percent. So I want to send the big lot of bulk. But there's no historical data on this market. So there's nothing for me to look at to predict what the future is going to be like. So right now, that's where back to the Baker and the Jose Ramirez, like I'm just buying some cards that look cool that I may want to collect, and just waiting to see what this market does. And right now it's like a standoff or stare down with the market and their cards. People are just like, what do I do? Saquon Barkley's out for the year. Do I panic? Do I hold on to it? He's talented. He's going to be back next year. It could go up again. It's a really awkward place for cards and people holding on to cards who were investing. And you have shows like Sports Card Investor who are trying to still pump up cards, saying, hey, this is a good buy. And I'm sitting there thinking, no, I don't know if anything's a good buy right now. Like it's really iffy time.
Well, let me push back on you on that one point, because I understand what you're getting at. I totally get what you're getting at. So I wanted to quickly have a moment here. I like it, Paul. Pro set is particularly fun in hockey because there is one set that is just notoriously horrific. Good old 90-91 Pro set. There are a couple of them, but 90-91 Pro set is my personal favorite because Medano has his rookie card in that. I have a PSA 10 of that. But they were so badly cut. I bought packs of it just for fun, and the cards were like miscut inside the pack. It's like the most tragic QC ever, and I'm like, incredible. And there are so many like uncorrected errors in that set, literally hundreds of them. It was like, did any of you even look at these cards before you sent them out? Did any of you? The answer is no. The answer is no, they didn't. So ironically, kind of playing to the point, that Medano Pro Set rookie PSA 10 is, in relative terms, compared to his best rookie, a rare card. Is it worth a lot? Hell no. Definitely not. No. It's still a junky card, but it's kind of fun to have it in a nice condition when most of them weren't, even out of the pack originally. The thing though is that, pushing back on what you were saying though, this is one of those situations where I'll defer back to the stock market. In the middle of the whole 2008 meltdown, right? All kinds of things went down. There's always something that is a correct buy. The problem is figuring out what it is at the time. That's the challenge, because a lot of times it gets tricky because you try to run metrics on it and you're like, okay, so what is the situation here? And in 2008, and I don't know what you remember or know about the 2008 crash and what the whole underlying thing was, they required all the banks to take money from the relief because they didn't want to show the perception that any specific bank was weak. Even though some of them were clearly weaker than others, some of them were clearly stronger than others, but all of them suffered across the board. And if you bought like stock in one of the banks that had an actual strong balance sheet that could have weathered the storm without taking any money, you would have done well. But the ones that were legitimately weak were basically held up so that they could eventually be bought up by one of the other ones. It was a case by case. In cards, it's going to be like that too, because the only time you should like legitimately panic, like truly panic, is if the prices and everything really finally drive out the collectors. If you finally infuriate the collectors so much the collectors actually go away and don't just go into dormancy, then you're right. Then the market's doomed and then you're done. But if you drive away the investors, you drive them away until the next time there's money to be made. They have short memories. They have amnesia about this. It doesn't matter how bad it gets. Eventually they'll be like, Project 2025, you say? What could possibly go wrong? They learned from last time. This time's different, Jordan. Project 2025, it's going to be huge. I'm calling it right now. Project 2025, get ready for it.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, definitely. I remember 2008. I was in high school. It's something I remember. I was buying stock then. I was like, hey, Dad, is there any way we can set up a joint account so I can buy some of this stock? Because Apple was like $100 a share. So I had like $500. I was buying, Apple, Microsoft was like $20. Like everything was discounted.
The point is there were buys, but a lot of people were thinking that same thought you expressed a moment ago. They were like, oh my God, will these prices ever recover? And the answer was like, not for everything. For Lehman Brothers, no. The answer is no. For Lehman Brothers, it did not recover. That was the end because they went out of business. For other things, though, it definitely did. They all suffered for a while, but then once you establish who legitimately had roots and who was stronger, it's like, well, by the way, you still need to buy that product and you still need to buy that product. So as it turns out, there was still a market for it. So they're still here.
Right. And that's where with cards, we have people who are like preach Prism, Select, Optic, and like that's all you hear. Whereas when people ask me, they ask me like, hey, what product should I buy? I hear Prism's really good. And I'm like, look, every product is a good buy at the right buy-in price.
Yes.
Like if you find, the right floor for it, like you can buy it and it's going to go up.
Correct.
If you get the right player at the right price, just don't buy it after it's hot and just peaked. So that's why I try to tell people like buy the cards that you think look cool. Don't sit there and just say, oh, I'm only going to buy Prism or Select because that's what someone said they only buy on some YouTube channel. I think every product it comes out, they're hot. When it comes out, there's a lot of hype for it. People are getting it off shelves. Prices are high. After a few weeks, they hit a floor. You can buy it at that floor with the right player, and you can make money there. So I'm just with this current market. I looked at Mosaic. I grabbed some second year Kylers. After a few weeks when Mosaic came out, I got them at a pretty nice floor. They're kind of still sitting there if anyone's watching.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let me throw this out at you. And somewhere off in the distance, as I say these words, I'm preparing for it. As I say these words, there's not a cloud in the sky right now. But as I say these words, lightning is going to strike in the background. It's going to be from Brent. So I have a question for you. Kyler's kind of a small dude. Do you honestly think he's not going to take like a career-ending hit at some point? Because that's the only thing that worries about him. I like his talent. His talent is not my issue. And there is talent around him. They could be good. But he's still a small dude, and I keep feeling like he's going to get crushed one time.
He is. And it's the hype for him. Like his first year wasn't that great. Like he wasn't a guy that you'd have in fantasy. It wasn't like Baker Mayfield's first year where he was breaking records. But his hype over the offseason I didn't understand it. But when I did learn, like with the Patrick Mahomes second-year cards and third-year cards, people buying them. And after a few weeks of watching Kyler and him having a few good games, and you can get his second-year Mosaic base for $5 to $10. You can get a silver for like I think it was around like $30, something like that. That looked like a good buy for me for a guy with all this hype. And I watched a few games of him, and I'm impressed. But yeah, he is small, but the small guys, they don't take hits directly. Most of the time, Johnny Manziel didn't take hits directly until he was in Charlotte, and he got crushed. I was at that game.
I think it's a product of the line you have in front of you as much as anything else. Like eventually you will there is a thing called the blindside hit, and the idea is you didn't see it coming.
Right. Yeah.
You can't run away from the blindside because you didn't see it.
Yeah. I was at the game that ended his career. Panthers fans were cheering here in Charlotte, like when he got hit, and I was like, "Come on, guys!" But yeah, he definitely had the same like build, and his game was just like Kyler's, and where he just kind of run around with the ball like LaShawn McCoy, not really holding it on the ball security and stuff like that.
I do think that I like Kyler's brain better than Johnny Manziel because Johnny Manziel was a head case.
Right.
But like I said, I'm not arguing about his talent. I think he's got talent. Does he have potential? I think tremendous potential. I do think that the reason why I'm picking on Brett is that I listen to his podcast and I get so much joy when he keeps talking about he's going to be like Steph Curry. And I'm like, all right, chill out, calm down, breathe. Hey, it's all good.
That's his opinion. And he makes valid points about it. And
there are some valid points there. Yes.
And a couple of years, he's going to have his Kyler collection. He's going to write to you and me and be like, hey, look what I got. Kyler Murray, he just got MVP and won a Super Bowl. So that's you never know. But
he can brag about his Kylers all he wants. I'm going to have Project 2025 cards, the refractor die cut out of like 3. And I'm going to have shares in 53 Tops, a 53 Tops Mickey Mantle that I bought 140,000 of. And I'm going to have a plot of land on the moon, and I'm going to be a lord. So take that. I don't need that trash Kyler.
Yeah,
I don't need that.
That's pretty impressive, actually. Yeah, that's man. I'm jealous.
I could have all that.
I'm jealous. Yeah.
Yeah, like I could have all that, and he's got his Kyler Murray collection. Like I care. I'm a lord.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, yeah, I do think Kyler. There are worse investments than Kyler.
I'm saying this tongue in cheek. I'm having some fun.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I his enthusiasm I find entertaining. I do find it reeks into hyperbole a little bit. But his enthusiasm I think is genuine. I don't know him as well as you do, but I think his enthusiasm is genuine. So that's cool. That's fine. But it is interesting. Like, could it work out? Absolutely. But everything's a risk with stuff like that. It is tricky though. I do think if you could have gotten, because I'm trying to think, when Kyler Murray was drafted, did they get? I don't think they got rid of Josh Rosen right away. I think there was a little delay because I think they got him, and then they waited for an excuse to get rid of him. But then I think he did play a little bit still before they like shipped him off. I could be wrong on my timeline.
I don't remember. He might have. I think Rosen was traded on draft night. I think so. I think he was traded on draft night.
So did he play right away, Kyler, in the first year?
I believe so. I mean, I just can't imagine being Josh Rosen and you just drafted a quarterback number 1 overall and you still holding on him. I think he was traded draft night for whatever pick they could get.
Could be. I have to remember because I know there were I might be thinking of a different guy, but regardless, I know there was a delayed reaction because when Kyler first came out, it wasn't like the hype hit immediately on day one. Obviously, if he had been able to buy a couple of those cards like earlier, um, but Kyler Murray was a hard prospect to assess because he was a baseball draftee who was drafted obviously much higher in the NFL, got a chance to make bigger money right away. I can't blame him. Fair enough. It's all good. But that's what I say. With his size, I think I'm trying to remember if he played shortstop or another position like that in baseball. Like, but I'm like, okay, it would have taken years to develop, but as a baseball shortstop, the likelihood of injury is lower. Again, I still just look at him like, I'm not worried about your talent. I'm not worried about your arm talent. I'm not worried about your ability to scramble and get around. I'm just worried if the day will come where because you are a guy who will go out of the pocket and go for it, you just have to take the hit the wrong way. And Andy made the point about Lamar also having a similar style of play where he'll run a lot. I would say Lamar runs even more, so I think the point's valid. I think he makes a very valid point. I'm wondering, though, I'm thinking, Andy, in the long run, Baltimore knows this, and I think they're going to slowly shift his game to throwing more. But they got to get comfortable where his throwing is solid enough, where the run becomes a weapon that he can just use at specific moments instead of being like option 1A. Right now, it's not option A anymore, but it's like option 1A.
They tried doing that with Cam and Carolina, tried to make him a pocket passer, but really just him being that guy who's the size of a defensive end that can run over people. That was his unique talent. And that's what the Patriots, they brought him in. They're like, hey, we're not paying you that much. So we're going to run you until you get injured. And they're looking pretty good right now. With Lamar last year, he did take a step forward at being a pocket passer.
A little bit better. Yep.
And I have watched a lot of him since he's in the Browns division, and he knows when to slide. He's not taking big hits. He'll run out of bounds if he has to. He's not like Kyler to where he's going to try to juke you. He's going to get down. He's going to step out of bounds. He's learned that. If Kyler learns that, that'll be good for him. But at the end of the day, when it comes to players and guys like Kyler, when people ask me like, "What do you think about this player?" I tell them, look. Every player can be a good investment if you buy them at the right price. If you buy the right product at the right price, it doesn't matter the play. I mean, the player does matter if you do your research and find a guy with potential. But overall, if you get a guy like Kyler at the right price, and there's going to be risk for everyone. If you weigh your risk and you get him at the right price, it's going to be a good investment for you. Hopefully. Right now with Kyler, and Lamar, the price is just too high for the risk. So
that's really my underlying thing is that what you're saying here is that you can price risk into it. It's the same way. It's the same way that you can overpay if you're committing to them winning multiple championships before they've won anything. Right. But in the other side is like, no, if you buy the guy low enough, you can take as many flyers as you want. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But if you buy them low enough, if one hits, because we all had a chance, technically, those of us that were around, we all had a chance to buy Lamar when he was Joe Flacco's backup. That one did happen for a stretch of time. Like we had it.
I was there. I was buying Baker, and Lamar was really cheap. No one was talking about buying, Lamar. I mean, maybe some people were, but no one was talking about buying Lamar Jackson and holding on, like he was going to be the way he is now, or winning an MVP. But at the time, you'd just be like, oh, that's Lamar Jackson. He's just a mobile quarterback. He's not going to be, that great, or like a guy who's going to be contending for Super Bowls every year. Let's go buy Baker Mayfield. And same with Josh Allen. No one wanted to buy Josh Allen. He threw 52% in college. No one thought he would be like he is right now this year. He surprised me. Even that draft, the Browns had number 1 pick and the number 4 pick. And I was thinking, out of all the quarterbacks, do not take Josh Allen. He cannot throw. But now I wish we had Josh Allen. So,
you're saying he can now throw? Okay.
Yeah, he looks great. I mean, and he can run, and it's crazy. And Lamar went later in that draft, and Baker, he's got some things to prove. And Sam Darnold, looks lost. So
I feel so bad for Sam Darnold because we don't know if he's actually bad because that team's really bad. So it's like, is he actually bad, or would anybody be bad under those circumstances?
Right, and they look like they're set up for Trevor Lawrence right now, so he may not get an opportunity in New York to really prove himself
But
because
you
of
know who might be the biggest person rooting for that? Sam
Gary.
Darnold.
Oh, no.
They do like a live feed. It's like, yes, thank
Yeah.
God. And they're like,
Get me
why
out
are
of
you
here.
cheering? Get me out of here. Put Trevor in. It's like, he's going to be chanting on the sideline. Put in Trevor. It's like, you're the starting quarterback. Put him in.
Trade me.
Like,
Yeah.
the faster you put him in, the faster I can get out of here. This team's messed up. So I'll just quickly say, hey, Jeremy. He's always back. Just hanging out. But no, I agree with you. The thing is, it's funny though, because that 2018 class turned out to be crazy. We had all these waves, these ebbs and flows. I did pull a Josh Allen prism. I still have it sitting in the box. I got lucky with a couple of like low level Lamar inserts. I was able to sell those for a couple of bucks. I did make my money back on the box eventually in time. Because I really didn't pull any of like the premium guys, nothing crazy with the color parallels or anything like that. So it really wasn't a great box. That's why I said when the box was going for 1,700, I'm like, damn, I should have just kept the box. I would have made much more on the box. But we'll see. Like Josh Allen could be good. Of course, I wish I had the silver prism. That would be even better. But I do have the base prism, and I may grade it at some point, when PSA has priced enough people out that we're back to normal. But Josh Allen looks good. Again, and the team looks decent. And right now that division is a little bit more up for grabs than it's been in years. So like from a football perspective, there's a lot of things to like. He is improving in certain areas. That's good. His team seems to be on the rise. That's good. The division is more open than it's been in years. That's also good. So from his perspective, it's great. But like I said, but the thing is like Sam Darnold, I don't know, man. Like I do think maybe he's got a Ryan Tannehill in him if he can get out fast enough. Maybe if he gets out faster, this could work out for him.
A Ryan Tannehill.
He was a better quarterback when he played for a team that wasn't relying on him, right?
Right.
So it's like maybe that's what happened. It's like in Miami, we all thought he was terrible. It's like, well, he's not great, but he's not terrible. Put him in the right situation, he can do what he can do, and then that's good enough.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, want to be Ryan Tannehill.
It's better than being Sam Darnold right now.
I guess, yeah.
At the moment,
maybe,
it's better than being Sam Darnold.
Maybe if he does push his way out of there, or they're definitely going to take Lawrence if they have the number one pick. Maybe I haven't looked at Darnold prices lately, but he does have the talent. So,
that's basically what I think anybody's banking on. I laugh because when his prices started going down, or Darnold's prices started going down, I have a box that I keep, like a 1,600 count box, where I just throw like random stuff in there. Where I'm like, okay, I'm taking a flyer. I'm just going to throw this in here. I'm going to put the lid on it. And I'm not going to look at it for a while. I went over to the box. That's how I figured out I had a Josh Allen rookie from 2 years ago, because I forgot. It was sitting in the box. I was like, oh, sweet. Awesome. I found those Lamar inserts as his prices started to go up. I was like, okay, great. Sweet. Because Lamar in 2018 belonged in the box.
Right.
He no longer belongs in the box, which is great. But I know for a fact that I have a Spectra Sam Darnold rookie out of 99 that I bought for like $15. If he ever becomes less than garbage, I'll probably get my $15 back. I might be able to buy a share in the 53 Tops Mantle, maybe. But I can trade it in, or maybe get some Project 2025. But the only way that any of that's going to work is he has to have some hope, because the hype is built on hope. It doesn't have to be built on reality; it just needs to be built on hope. And right now, the Jets have no hope. So
right,
his prices are going to be as depressed as they're going to be.
Right, which makes me think of this upcoming NFL draft and the hype behind it, that people have been hyping Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields since high school. Lawrence has the LeBron type hype. Fields is getting overlooked, and he would be number one pick for the past few drafts if there was no Lawrence. So these guys are like the real deal. I feel like the hype for these two guys will be enough to get the market fired up again. But if you do have Trevor Lawrence in a New York Jets uniform, I would not be buying him.
So you're saying if they get Trevor Lawrence and extend Gase so that they can keep that offense running and just keep rolling along the way they are, you're saying not a buy.
I wouldn't want him. I would not want him. No.
I do think though, I genuinely believe some people really underplay the value of the franchise you go to. The fact that Lamar fell in the draft because people weren't sure. He fell to a team that was actually designed well, that was thinking of the future. And they had a quarterback who, like, we're going to get rid of this guy, but we won a Super Bowl with him, so we're not going to trash him right away. We've got time. We can do this. And it's almost forgotten. It's bizarre because it's forgotten.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year.
I make that argument with everyone who's like, hey, the Browns could have had Patrick Mahomes. They took Myles Garrett instead. They could have had this guy. I'm like, no. If Patrick Mahomes was in Cleveland, drafted in 2017, they went 0-16 that year. I'm pretty sure that was the year.
I think so.
You wouldn't know who Patrick Mahomes was. Like, yeah, like he would win 0-16. Maybe he wins a game. Maybe they go 1-15. You would not be talking about. You'd be talking about, oh, the Browns passed on Baker Mayfield. Why did they do that? They're dumb. Why did they take Sam Darnold? Like, it depends on the organization, and that's definitely something I look into with investing. Like, I want a guy who's with an organization that I trust. Like, I will not invest in a Sacramento Kings player at all. Like, I don't care how good you are. Like, that, I don't trust that organization. New York Knicks is a little iffy. I do have some RJ Barrett, but they're a little iffy. Just stuff
so
like that.
On a scale of 1 to 1,000,000, how many Joe Burrows do you have exactly?
I have 0.
I feel bad for him because he should have just played the card. He should have played the Eli Manning card. I was like, no, bros, just no, just trade me, bros. And it's like, but you're a local kid. No, just somewhere else.
Yeah, I feel really bad for him. Every press conference, he's like, I've never lost 2 games in a row, and he just looks like what is going on? Like, I don't understand this. First of all, he looks like that kid from Home Alone, so it's just like, I already feel bad for him. And okay. I'm kidding, but yeah, I don't want any stock in any Bengals player, especially at his prices.
I understood it. I understood, but at the same time, I was like, guys, Bengals. It's the Bengals. So I like this comment here. Paul knows. Mahomes would have been in the CFL if he had been drafted by the Browns. Yeah, he would have fled for the CFL. I go, no, I want to go somewhere where it's safer. There's Canadian healthcare up there. We can make this work. It's fine. Yeah, it's true. But no, you're right. Like with Joe Burrow, it's like I look at Joe Burrow and I'm like, you could be good. Like, I can see it. I can totally see this. Then it's like, drafted Cincinnati. You could have been good. It could have been really good. Not anymore, but it could have. It would have. Now my hopes are dashed for you. Like, I don't know what to say at that stage. And organizationally, I don't see how they get better. But that's true with a lot of these. Sometimes it's a total crapshoot. It's luck of the draw. It's not only talent. Like I said, the Patrick Mahomes was like the perfect storm. Right player with the right skill set, went there, got to sit for a year, got to work with Andy Reid, who has a couple of ideas about offense. They got to spend time working on stuff, and the talent on that team is sick. Put it all into a stew, and it's like, all right, here you go. Now you're a 50 touchdown guy, NFL MVP, and here's your Super Bowl MVP trophy. Please go away now.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I think of like Tua. He's with the Dolphins. I want to think he's a good investment. But it's the Dolphins, so I don't know. And then I think about Jordan Love with the Packers, and that's a guy I'm really looking at. But then I see like a training camp, video of him, running out of the pocket and just completely missing his target by like a ton. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. But he's still a guy that's intriguing to me.
I think what's going to be interesting. So, Brian, my condolences for your Kings. If it was the LA Kings, you might have had a chance. Sacramento, not so much. At least the LA Kings won a Stanley Cup a couple of years back, so that would have been something. That maybe switch Kings, go to the different Kings, Brian. But no, but your point's valid. And the thing is, it's funny. Like, as a Packer fan, I laughed when they made that pick. I was like, really, guys, this is your strategy. And the thing is, I feel like they're going to think in their back of their mind, they're like, it's okay. We're playing 4D chess. We're going to piss Aaron Rodgers off, so he's going to be good for a while, and then we'll hand it over to Jordan Love. I'm like, that's a plan. You can try it. let me see. You also didn't get him any help, so that if Devontae Adams is hurt, I don't know who my number 2 receiver is. The other ones have good games. It's not like they're all bad, but it's like, but none of them are a definitive number 2. You always need like a safety blanket guy. I need to be able to go, if everything breaks down, throw it to this guy. I don't know who that is.
Right.
So it's like, I believe Aaron Rodgers will try really hard this season to make a point, and he's off to a good start. Like, he's doing that. But again, at some point, Devontae Adams will get hurt. He usually does. He'll play really well when he plays, but when he doesn't play, he won't. Valdez-Scantling, he's good. He's good for like a cool play a game and then like a stupid drop that just makes you shake your head. Lazard's hurt. Yeah, he's hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Yeah, so it's like, so all right, who's next? Who else we got?
That tight end guy. He's on the waivers in my fantasy league. I forgot his name, but he's scored past few games.
I agree, but the fact that your words are that tight end guy is making my point for me.
Right.
I don't even need. I'm not going to fill in the blank. We're going to stick with that tight end guy. That's what we're going with. That's my point. And you couldn't draft a skilled player. Not one. They ran the stat in Aaron Rodgers' entire tenure. They have drafted one skilled player in 15 years. One with a first round pick. It's almost impossible. Like, how are you this dumb? You wasted his entire prime with bad coaching in addition to a terrible defense. And now it's like, you can't get him a position player. The offense is pretty good. If I can't rely on it. It could go away at any time if one thing goes wrong. But it's like, okay, guys, give it a go. Last year they were 13-3. I guess they think they're going to repeat that performance this year. I don't know about that. A lot of things have to go right for 13-3 to happen. That's right, Jeremy. Maybe switch Kings. Go with a different one. Yeah, Joe Dumas could whip us back into shape. I would not. Brian, no. Brian, no. You skip back earlier in the conversation when we had the Cleveland talk. Substitute Cleveland for everything related to your Kings and switch Kings. Switch Kings while you still can. Just don't do it, my friend. Don't do it. I'm trying to spare you further pain. But no, you're right. At the end of the day, though, like this has always been true. And the thing is, it almost feels like the economic line where the laws of economics are not been violated here. The laws of your team needs to be not garbage because this is a team game. There's 11 players on the field. Even a really good quarterback can only do so much with a garbage team. And if you're starting off as a rookie and you're getting destroyed game after game, eventually you will lose confidence, even if you're really good. And then what happens?
Yeah, that's where I think Jordan Love's intriguing because he is sitting behind Aaron Rodgers unless Aaron Rodgers gets upset and just ask for a trade or something.
I kind of want him to though. Like I'm like do it, Aaron. This would be so funny. Here's the thing: I'm a Packers fan from the Brett Favre days. I had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row, 2 first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row, and I have 2 Super Bowls to show for it. That is impossible. Like, it is mathematically impossible to have that much consecutive great quarterback play and have a grand total of 2 Super Bowls and 3 appearances to show for it. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's mismanagement, like total mismanagement. Both of them are divas. They've got their issues, but you have to adapt to that. You have to adjust.
Yeah, best quarterback in Cleveland I've watched is Brian Hoyer. So that's
I understand. That's why I'm saying my point that I'm trying to get at is we have it good. And we still weren't able to capitalize on this. Is something that other NFL teams would kill for. There are teams that are like a quarterback away from being great. Jacksonville would have crushed the Patriots a couple of years back if they didn't have Blake Bortles. Like, they were a competent quarterback away. Forget about a great one, a competent quarterback away. And there are teams like that all over the NFL where it's like, actually, you don't need a great quarterback. You don't need an all-time great. You need Ryan Tannehill because your quarterback situation is so bad.
Yeah, it makes sense. So that's where you look at a guy like Jordan Love and you look at the history, say there's a chance, he could be, Hall of Fame quarterback, but you also think about the management and say, are they going to give him skill position players for the next 15 years if he is the guy for the next 15 years? And history says, no, they're not. So
no. I thought Jordan Love is going to be a stretch because the 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks they ended up with were like blind luck. Number one, you have to think about it. It's true. Brett Favre was an Atlanta draft pick. They traded for him. He was wild. He was uncontrolled. They weren't sure what they could make out of him. They brought him to Green Bay. They managed to lock him in just right. They got it set up, and they were able to roll with it. Was it perfect? No. He's a turnover machine. He has the most interceptions ever. He also had the most touchdowns ever at one point, but he also had the most interceptions ever. So he was feast or famine. Multiple fan bases can tell you what happens. When Brett Favre's on, it's scary good. When Brett Favre's bad, oh my God, the turnovers. He's the only guy I can think of that ended 2 NFC championship games with a horrific turnover, with a horrific interception in overtime.
Yeah.
It takes talent to do that. But it's like, that's why they got to 2 Super Bowls because that team was so good. But at the same time, it's like they probably could have gotten more if it had been a little more consistent. Aaron Rodgers was really, really good. They had a really great team that had all the pieces, but they got him, and they got him because number one, they were able to have him back up Brett Favre for a couple of years, learn under him. But then number two, they got him late because a bunch of teams passed on him. And then he was mad right from the get-go. So he was determined to be like, I'll prove this to all of you. I will make you all pay. You can't buy that.
Yeah.
And that's luck. That's luck. That wasn't talent on their part.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely remember that draft and people being like, who is this guy? Aaron Rodgers. So, but people are saying the same thing about Jordan Love. So, and I've watched some tape on him. He does have the arm. He has that like flick of the wrist type throw like Mahomes. Mm-hmm. So if his prices, the prison's not out yet and stuff like that. But if his prices get to a point where people start to forget about him, if it takes 2 years, maybe not this year, because he is kind of one of those guys where people are looking out for it, but maybe in a few years, if he's still, sitting on the bench and waiting for his time, he might be the quarterback out of this draft that we look back and say, he was the one.
I would be very pleased if that was true. But it's going to very much depend on the development. And I don't know if the Packers have the brain trust to develop a quarterback right now. That would be something that keep an eye on. Just in general, this is an organizational piece again. It's like just something to keep an eye on. Do they have the personnel to actually develop a quarterback and fill in those gaps? Because he's not perfect, otherwise he would have been drafted first overall. Like he's got some flaws, so they got to work on that.
Right. And as someone who's looking into Jordan Love, how much of the staff has turned over since the Aaron Rodgers 2 years?
For sure. Yeah. That's the thing. I just don't know. I don't know. We haven't seen it. Maybe the reality is in that whole Aaron Rodgers tenure, there hasn't been another guy they've tried to do that with. So now we're going to find out because they haven't tried to develop anybody else that way.
Right.
Yeah. During Favre's tenure, it was weird because if you go back and look at his backups, they had Mark Brunell was a backup for him, and eventually he was a starter in the NFL for a while. They had the guy in Seattle who Hasselbeck. He was a backup in Green Bay. So they actually had some decent backups in Green Bay that eventually went to play for other teams and were able to at least start for a while. So I guess they had a good quarterback room one way or the other. Somehow they developed at least some decent quarterbacks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll see. The current one will be interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Cool. So anything else then we want to hit on? We actually got a little bit. We actually got a pretty good extension on that. We went a couple of different directions, but it was fun.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything else. I'm starting to get a little tired.
I kind of figured. Sounds good. So why don't I wind it up? We'll call it good. Okay. But it's been a great conversation. So hang in there, Jordan. I'll chat with you real quick after we go offline, but for everybody else, hey, thanks for hanging out. There's been a bunch of you that have been hanging out for a while, so I appreciate it. You've been seeing Jordan's information scrolling across the bottom for the last 3 hours and 41 minutes. Like for the better part of it, it has been scrolling there. You've seen it. Check out his channel. And actually, hold on. Let me do one thing here. Bear with me a second. Let's do one thing here. I think I did it earlier in the broadcast. I forget now, but let me do this really quick. So just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here's Jordan's channel, Sports Card Analytics. He's got 300 subscribers. Congrats to you.
Thank you.
So now what you're going to be looking at is if you guys want to check it out, you see some of his videos. He's been doing some. He had one a couple of days ago. And as we've already discussed in this, you're going to be working on adjusting. Give him some feedback. Check out some of his videos and give him some feedback. And you can kind of tell him a little bit of what you're liking and not liking and what you'd like to see more of if you've got specific questions that could be some good content for Jordan to at least look into. Obviously, it's his channel. He's got to figure out what he want to do, but feedback is always helpful, especially constructive feedback. It's always helpful.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. I just don't like the feedback when people are like, card ladder sucks, don't use card ladder. And I'm like, look, I don't work for card ladder. Like, don't ask me the questions. Like, I have the platform. It gives me data. That's where I'm pulling my data from.
It's not the tool, it's the person using
it.
Yeah, it's not the tool, it's the person using it and how they use it. It is, though.
Right.
Hey, that's a double entendre. Where your mind goes is your problem. I can't help you with that. Let me quickly get this question here for Jeremy. So this is actually a good one. This is more of an opinion piece, Jordan. We don't have to go too crazy with this one. But he's asking, like, after Mahomes, who are the best quarterbacks in the league kind of for you? This could be an investment angle or it could just be play. You can take whatever angle you want on this one. What do you think? You don't have to go specifically top five, but who do you think are like the top guys?
That's where I think of, like, just fantasy football.
Sure.
Definitely Russell Wilson right now, who's being overlooked a little bit. He's getting a lot of hype now, but he's being overlooked for a while. Obviously, Lamar Jackson MVP year. Dak Prescott. I really like Dak Prescott. Do
you like his game or do you like his cards? Just so I understand.
Both.
Okay.
I've been checking his cards lately. I found like and I didn't buy it, but there was a Don Russ gold out of 10 for 1,200, and I was holding on to a Luka PSA 10 Prism, and I'm like, I could trade this for a gold Dak Prescott rookie card.
Okay.
So I was
Did you pull the trigger on that, or were you just thinking about it?
No, I just liquidated the Luka, and I'm just holding on to the money right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I do like him. Just talent wise, he's starting to get weapons. He just got CeeDee Lamb, and he's got Zeke, who I'm a Buckeye fan, so I like Zeke. That's what 4 quarterbacks. So I got to fit in a fifth. Man, who am I forgetting? Kyler Murray would be the next one to go off the list in a fantasy football draft, but he would not be in my top 5. I'm going to say Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Fitzmagic.
Magic. Look at you.
That's my guy.
It's the beard, isn't it? It's the beard.
I'm just kidding.
I know. I hope you are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will clip this, and I'll be like, "This is representative of Jordan's opinions and how you should do with them."
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another quarterback who I would want. Who I would what? Drew Brees.
Do you want to take a second? You want to take a second and think about it?
Drew Brees. There it is.
Okay, fine, sure. So let me take a couple of these here. So Brian here threw out his opinion. So Russell Wilson, he agrees with you. He's got Rodgers up there. So for me, I'll break it up into 2 pieces, Brian. Russell Wilson and Rodgers are good. Wilson is good as like a quarterback right now. I still like Rodgers, obviously, but that's a fanboy pick for me. What I will say though is that where he goes will also depend on what's going on around him. If they do figure out that number 2 receiver thing, I like him a lot more because then his head seems to be in the right place. He can still make throws. So from that perspective, I'm good. I still worry about the surrounding cast. I'm concerned about that. If Devontae Adams is healthy and playing well, I feel better about it. If somebody else establishes themselves as a clear number 2, I feel better about it. If these things do not happen, I am highly concerned. So he's not a bad pick. As a card pick, like right now, I still think like his stuff's starting to go up. You can see it, but he's a Hall of Fame guy. So like, depending on how you feel about it, if you didn't already get it, I don't think the end has come, but it's not like a short, to separate the way Jordan did. It's not a short-term play. If your plan is to flip it, it's a bad idea. If your plan is to hold on to it because you like the guy long-term, then it's not a terrible idea because he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a guy at that level. Roethlisberger is interesting because I just don't know if he's good anymore. I'm not really sure about that one. I don't think so. Breeze, I think, will retire by the end of the year. So that's a thing. Brady will be interested in Tampa Bay. I think Brady's been kind of washed for a couple of years. I think he's still smart enough to make the plays, and the talent, he has the opposite problem. The talent is good enough that it might still be all right because he's got talent around him. So it might still work. So he's kind of the opposite.
I did want to say Brady, but he definitely hasn't looked good the past few years. He's been carried by that defense in New England, and now he's definitely being carried by a good receiving core.
Oh, I love the consistency, Paul. He's been on that Deshaun Watson buy it now button for hours, Jordan. He's dedicated. He's dedicated to it. I love it.
Do it.
I am going to forget. Yeah, I am going to forget Garoppolo. Sorry, buddy. All right, so here, last one here. So Wilson, Lamar, Dak, Fitzpatrick, and Breeze. Yeah, nice. There you go. That's the screenshot, Jeremy. Could you take that screenshot and like these are his picks, especially the last couple there, right at the end.
Probably get me more subscribers.
Well, if you make a video called your quarterback top fives,
yeah, and have top fives, just go through my Ryan Fitzpatrick cards and be like, guys, buy these up. You know, get all.
Your problem, Jordan, is that you need to take a photo shoot where you point at your list of top fives in some way.
I can't do it. I've talked to Andy about it. I see the pictures or just make these really dumb faces. I can't do it. I think my pride is just too much to make a thumbnail. Right. So I just started throwing Baby Yoda in my thumbnail, and I'm like, Baby Yoda, you're gonna be the one to bring people in. I'm not gonna be on the thumbnail anymore. None of this, like, no, I can't do it.
All right. So the last word here will go to Andy, who's got his advice for all of us here. Oh, look, under $25. Oh.
He's an Eagles fan. So
and at this point, you might be able to get Carson Wentz himself for $25 at the rate he's going. If he keeps going any further, he's got to fix it. Yeah. So anyway, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks to you for the participation. It's actually been really good. I'm gonna let Jordan get some rest. He needs to hang out, get some more advice from Baby Yoda. But check out his channel. It is some good stuff, and I think, and I've been enjoying it. And the Instagram, by the way, has some really good stuff as well. He has put some good stuff in both locations. So check it out for sure. We'll talk again. This has been a great conversation. Jordan, thanks for coming on. This has been fun.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sounds good. So let me get you offline here. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Andy, thanks for hanging out. Maybe we'll chat at some point too. We'll see if we can make that happen here. Oh, here we go. All right, Jeremy, I'll tell you my top 5 later. Don't worry about it. We'll get to it. I promise. So I don't do top 5 lists on YouTube channels either. So it's not my thing. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Appreciate it. We're gonna log off here. Okay.